Here we
technical
are. Difficulties today.
no tech difficulties, or you mean it's actually
Here
all
we
gonna
are.
work?
We're
We
actually
are live.
live. Barely.
We
We
are
barely made it.
live.
Every week it's always the same. Barely. Maybe we are live, maybe we're not. We don't even know at this point.
Oh, so and hopefully all the audio and everything is working good. Like I think the video is up there from what I can
I
take a little
think
peek at. But
everything this week is the best it's ever been. I think. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm only hearing it from our side, though, right? Not from
yes,
their side.
that's-
So we'll
well,
see what their side is, but.
let's just be honest. Last time, it sounded fine on your end. They just couldn't hear
Yeah,
our
right.
end.
I think this one's good though. I think this one's good. If you guys do have any tech issues, just let us know. We'll get them fixed. We're a mess every time, so there will be tech issues, I'm sure.
Living and learning, living and learning.
Yeah, they say audio is good, video is good, everything's good. Look at us.
Holy. So, and this is going to be what? Episode 4?
4. 4.
No way. We've actually done 4
Episode
episodes
4.
of
I
this already.
know. Episode
4.
3 that's on Spotify. Oops. And YouTube. No, our first episode was a Twitch exclusive. That's what it was.
Oh, Twitch exclusive. No one else had the pleasure of viewing that one. Eh?
Exactly.
That's a top secret mystery to remain.
If you weren't there, you'll never know what we talked about. That's the rule. You just gotta be there, right? But welcome,
so my
welcome.
name's Anthony.
I'm Drake.
And this is Babbling Over Borders.
Look at us. Official as can be.
Yeah, trying. I know. It's hilarious, actually.
This will be the last one of the year, too.
Well, and I know. And you didn't even put on a nice shirt, sir. I got to give you
I know. Look, here's the thing. If my house wasn't 85 degrees right now, I'd be dressed up. Schmancy. But since apartment complex air conditioning wants to go out in the winter, here we are. Living my best life.
I understand that. I had to make some changes. I closed a door, opened a window. I actually threw some pants on for this one, and that's hilarious.
Go. You want to hear the worst part? My windows in my apartment do not open.
Do not open?
They do not open. They have something blocking it to where I can't open the windows.
You know what? I've heard some crazy rental stories as of late, and I think that's a whole, like, we could almost do a whole show just on that, right?
I've had some bad renting stories. I mean, you know some of them, right? But true.
Yes.
I'll have some stories for that day. But here's the thing. I live in a pretty, I don't say luxury. It's definitely not a luxury apartment, but it's like better than middle apartment. You know what I mean? It's like upper class apartments.
I gotta say, I lucked out too. I got a very, very nice apartment for what some of the other ones I've seen and gone to visit friends in. I am very, very thankful for that, and so I count my blessings. Again, I don't have a lot of things to deal with.
See, that's my problem. Thankful. I feel like I have too many problems for how much I pay in rent for my area. Like, I live in a pretty good area. I live in a pretty nice place. But for how many problems I've had and how many times I've had to call maintenance into my house, it's too many, bro. It's too many. And I'm real tired. And they raised my rent like less than 6 months ago. 3 months ago.
So now imagine you bought that place, though, and had to do all those expenses yourself.
See, that's the thing. That is pretty crazy. I would never buy a place like this. I mean, I would have to find like a condo that is purchasable, right? I live in like a complex right now, like a gated community type thing. But
fancy,
I
fancy.
Think, like I said, it's pretty nice. I mean, I have amenities. I have a pool. I have a gym, like a game room. I have a car wash bay at my place. Like, it's a nice place, but I pay dearly for it. I pay dearly for it. But with all of that comes the problems. My water heater was just replaced because apparently it was leaking on the people below me. That's wild. I've had my roof in my living room was leaking water. I'm on the top floor of my building, and the roof in my living room was leaking water. My friend's computer in my living room was ruined because water fell through my ceiling. And I walked out there one day because I heard like little drops of something. I was like, what is that? And I walk into my living room and it is water all over the floor. His PC is fried because water was just dripping. That was the sound I heard, was the water hitting his computer. I called them, I went off. Then they came out and fixed it, and it happened again like a week later.
Well, yeah, you need to start looking at the roof, and I'm sure they didn't go start
That's what I'm saying.
replacing
There were some
a whole
tornadoes
bunch.
like a couple of years ago, like before I moved in, and they said that they had repairs done, and that's where it rooted from. But the problem with that is my renter's insurance doesn't cover it because it wasn't the apartment's fault. Apparently, it was the contractors. So nobody covered the stuff that was broken. I was just out like $1,000. And then my AC has went out several times. Like it's not a start. They had to come in and fix some of the outlets. Like half of the outlets in my kitchen were just not working, right? And so they had to come fix like electrical issues. The AC keeps freezing over, and I've heard of that happening, right? Like ACs do freeze up, but mine has happened like too frequently. They shouldn't have to come here that often to fix that problem, right? Something is problematic.
Yeah, see, and you know what though, I'm lucky that way too. I haven't really had any issues that way. Um, oh, I had a mouse. That was kind of random. I've never had a mouse before, so I dealt with that. Got rid of them. They made,
Mm.
and like I finally found where they were hiding. I was like, really? This is where they're hiding? Like I couldn't believe it. It was actually ridiculous. But anyways, you remove all the garbage, get rid of it, and they're gone. And I think the only other real issue I've had with my new place here is a stove outlet now.
Mm.
Yeah, it won't flicker in and making all kinds of racket inside when you turn it on. So I just don't use that outlet now.
My
Yeah.
kitchen is the way it's set up is my oven and my fridge and my microwave are all on the same side. So they're all on the same breaker. And I also have
Okay.
a deep fryer that I plug in sometimes. And if I'm running my microwave and if I turn the deep fryer on, like if those two things hit at the same time, it just flips the breaker and everything goes dark. And I have to go unplug it, move it around. It is a hassle. And even that stuff, I'm not mad about, right? Like that's just like, I mean, that's any place, right? I'm plugging in 10,000 watts of power through one wall. Then okay, yeah, that's understandable. But some of the stuff, like my AC freezing up and water coming through my roof, no, that's a problem, right?
Well, and you would think when they built the house, though, like if you're going to put the kitchen here, you're obviously going to need more power supply to supply these, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, appliances and stuff like that. It's no different than where they plan to put the dryer, right? They obviously got to put more power there and bigger plug. So
Yeah.
oven is another one, if I'm not mistaken. So you know what I mean? Like they should have powered that adequately, and
I don't
it
know. I
shouldn't
think it
be.
is. I think it's just whenever I plug in too much stuff. Sometimes I really do kind of get ballsy over there. Like I do have other
Wow.
areas to plug it. I just prefer where it is, so whatever. But like I said, those issues I can look past them, right? Like I can just flip it off. We're back to where we started. We're good, right? But
Yeah.
I think my main problem was the water leaking. They did not offer to do anything. If they would have been like, "Oh yeah, tell us what was damaged. If your renter's insurance doesn't want to cover it because of this, then maybe we can help you out. We can give you a rent decrease, something like that. Something, right?" No, they did nothing.
You're
They
expecting
raised my
someone
rent.
to just give you free money. Yeah, you're dreaming, sir.
No, the
Like
problem is they just take advantage so easily, and there's no other option.
insurance, insurance do, of course. That's how they make a living. That's how that
It is
whole insurance
impossible around here.
thing works, right?
I
Is
hate it.
making a bunch of money, and that's ends up being a big problem when it comes to insurance, right? Like that.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how they make. Look how rich some of those insurance companies are. Like
The craziest part is you are required by law to have insurance on so many things. And I think that's so
yes,
crazy. Like I understand it from a liability standpoint, some of it, but other
yes.
parts, that's crazy to me, bro. Like, I don't know. I hate car insurance. Our car insurance, I had a problem with that the other day. They called me. We have to have these apps on our phone, right? And if we don't have the app, they charge us more. We get a discount for having the app because it like tracks our driving and whatever. So
Yeah,
apparently,
well,
the one
there
on my
becomes the problem.
sister's
Yeah, but no, no.
no, no, no,
See,
look,
I
look, the one
think
on my sister's phone messed up, right? It wasn't tracking like it was supposed to. They tell me that if I don't fix that, they're gonna charge me 10% more whenever I like renew it. And our insurance is ungodly expensive already, bro. We pay ridiculous amount because we pay it 6 months at a time. So 10% is a lot of money for not downloading an app, right?
that's ridiculous.
And it's just stuff like that. My
Yeah, but
apartment
see,
complex was telling me I have to have renter's insurance. They tell me I have to have that. There was a law here a few years ago in the States that you had to have health insurance and you had to pay for it. Or guess what? More fines. Well, if I can't afford the health insurance, if I can't afford these things, and you're going to fine me for not having them. Wow. The circle of life. It's beautiful.
well, yeah, then and that's one thing about fines that I really don't. Like obviously I understand, but it's very different when it comes to fine based on your pay scale. You know what I mean? People who have no issues with
Mm-hmm.
money, aren't living paycheck to paycheck, are gonna have no problems paying fine versus someone that's living paycheck to paycheck, you know what I mean? They get a fine and all of a sudden they're in the hole, whatever that fine may be. And fines aren't cheap anymore. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know if there's like a $10 or $30 fine. You know what I mean? If I'm not
Not in my
mistaken,
life. There hasn't been.
yeah, no, the fines are up to like 50 and 60 upwards. You know what I mean? I
If
had a
not
tow.
more,
Actually, I got my vehicle towed in Toronto. Yeah, this was
right?
a
Mm-mm.
while ago now. I went out to a concert. We parked. And it's funny, like I was still within 15 minutes of when the you weren't allowed to park there. And in the 15 minutes or whatever, maybe it was even half an hour, you know what I mean? But by the like judging off the ticket, I got the ticket dropped because you had a 15-minute leeway. But
Mm-hmm.
the tow trucks were there, everybody, and try and get your money back from the tow truck. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
There was
good luck on
no, I
that.
tried and I called the city and the tow truck and the city and the tow truck, and everybody agreed that I was entitled to my money because again I didn't I wasn't the one, but who's gonna pay? City's not gonna
Exactly
pay. The tow
right.
truck company's like, we're just doing our job. But they
Mm-hmm.
had literally set it up and were taking out cars because they knew that people parked there for the concert. And so right at midnight or whatever it was, you know what I mean, 12:30, they were starting towing cars right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happened to see the tow truck as I was walking down the road looking for my truck where I parked. And I was like, "Yo, did you take my truck?" He's like, "I don't know. We might have called the number." And he
Dude.
drove off, and I didn't even have a chance to get the number. Yeah, that was a whole
Dude,
wild
I have
experience.
such a similar story. When I was in California, I
That was
was visiting someone and I parked in a spot. It was night. Let me give you some backstory.
yeah,
It
it
was
was
like
nice.
it was an apartment complex and or like a condo complex, whatever, near the beach. And every spot was filled up except for this one spot I saw. So I parallel parked into the spot where I am close to the road. Okay? So you're with me. So it looked like a spot. It had lines, like spots do, parking spots. It had lines, right? 100% parking spot. So I back into the spot. I get out. I go inside. Whatever. The next day, I come outside, and I'm leaving with someone to go to the beach or whatever. And we pass by where my car was parked. And I look at it for a second. I'm like, hold on, stop the car. And I'm like, where's my car at? My car is not where I left it. So we looked for a minute, no car in sight, right? Nothing noted, nothing, no car. But apparently, when I get out, now there are a lot of parking spots open, right? Because it's in the day. I look at where I believe I was, and there's a fire hydrant beside where I parked. But there's a parking spot in front of the fire hydrant. But since it was so dark and so packed, when I parallel parked in the spot, I couldn't see the fire hydrant, right? So they came and towed my car. And I didn't even know at first. I called the police and I was like, yeah, I don't know if my car was stolen or towed, but if it wasn't towed, then I need to report it stolen. And this was like within 1 week of moving to California. I just bought this car, right? It was terrible, bro. And then I had to go pay because I didn't have the money at the time, right? So I finally found out that it was towed. And I couldn't afford it, right? I just moved there. I paid rent, bought a car. Like I was broke, right? So I called and they're like, yeah, it's $300 to get your car out. I'm like, okay. So I scramble. It takes me like 2 or 3 days to get the money, right? By the time I go get my car, it cost me $550 to get this car out of impound. They were charging me like over $50 a day for it to sit
Yep.
on their lot. And I'm like, bro, the longer it sits, the more screwed I am right now. It is a cycle. I saw this post. It said any law that is payable by a fine and only a fine is a law that does not apply to the rich.
And you know what? Again, when I that night of the concert, we had already spent so much to go out, get tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you got to pay for drinks in there, and even a pop is $6. You know what I mean? So it ends up adding up, and then you add. If I'm not mistaken, it was like a $220 or $250 tow bill at the end of the night,
Yeah.
and again, I had to pay for a cab from wherever the concert was down to the tow place, which is at the very south end, right,
Mm-hmm.
and of Toronto. Yeah, the expense, it was probably ended up
Yeah.
costing me another $500 by the time it was all said and done. And then again, they like you got to go try and fight the tickets and prove like what is this? The signage there is garbage too. Like that was the other thing
Yeah.
I thought on. I was like, you guys don't even have good signs there. Like this is nonsense. You're parked there fine, and then randomly one little sign across the street, by the way, says, and I was like, you guys are absurd.
Dude,
Like,
that's my problem now. Anytime I park like in the city now, I will be sure to triple check where I'm parked. I'll overpay for parking. Like if I know I'm gonna be there for a couple hours, I'll buy like 4 hours just in case, right? Because I'll
see,
pay
a
per
lot of
hour here,
places
so
around,
I will just do as much as I can.
a lot of places, maybe 4 hours is like the max, but like 2 hours, you know what I mean? Hour parking, stuff like that. They do, again, where I'm from, a lot of the times they will have some like free parking for holiday events and stuff like that. But there
Mm-hmm.
is a lot of other people like charging parking. You know what I mean? I know there's
Yeah.
one person I think of. He owns a place right by an arena here. And anytime you go, he's like, "Oh, come on down. I'll park it for $5. No problem. Don't pay the city. Pay me." And like gets tons of people parking in his
Yeah.
property, right? And it's actually pretty funny though. But good again, genius idea. Why not, maximize on
Yeah. A lot of people do that now. Speaking of concerts, I have a concert I'm going to 2 weeks from today, actually.
No way. You're going to a
I
concert.
am so excited for this concert. This group that I'm going to see, me and my sister have said that if they ever go on tour anywhere near us, like within 5 hours, we'll be going, right? And they are touring like 2 hours away from us in Atlanta. And
No way.
I'm so excited for this concert. We went to two back in September, two concerts. We went to one, and then the following week, we went to another. And those were really good. Loved that. Had a great time. But this one, it's gonna be different. This is the one I've been waiting on for years now.
I love concerts. Concerts I used to go I would go to, I don't know, at least 3, 4, maybe more concerts a year, and yeah, I was a big concert goer. I love
I've always wanted to go
live music.
more. Yeah, any type of live music too. Like even
Yeah.
music I typically hate, like country music. I do not listen to country music at all. If I'm in my car at home, whatever, never. But I was in Nashville for work like a month ago or so, and I literally just went downtown and sat in the first bar. I was walking up the strip and just sat in a bar and was just listening to music. It was like super country music all around. I do not care. I love the vibes.
And that's it. I think live concert gives off way I was gonna say way good. Way good.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah. No,
That's
it
that
gives off a
Canadian
decent vibe.
education.
Shh. My brain starts thinking too fast and putting too many words together. So sometimes I gotta slow down and think a little bit. Right? I get excited. I like live music. I
All these
get
words
hyped.
that come out. No, I really do love it though. Any type of music, I'll listen to anything from. I would go to an opera, and then I would go to. I went to like a metal
I don't
concert.
know if I would go to an opera, but I must say, if I'm not mistaken, Massey Hall used to be an opera house, and that is still one of the best places I ever seen a concert. It was incredible, the sound, the venue.
Mm-hmm.
I was really worried because they said some spots, like there are columns and your view might be obstructed, whatever. I walked in the place, I was mind blown. Like and supposedly they renovated it though. I'm definitely not too happy. I would love to go back there. I don't know if I'm allowed to go back there, but I would like to go back there, right? And
Yeah,
I would love to see what they that place. Yeah, it was incredible. Live music, bar none. If you haven't gone to see a live concert, I highly suggest anybody listening
exactly
go
right.
see anybody because it
It
is a
doesn't have
whole
to be
different.
like one of your top bands or artists,
No,
right? Like just go see music live because it's so different. I wouldn't recommend going to see your favorite bands live because you're so like engulfed in their music. Live concerts, it's almost not even just about the music, right? It's about the vibes of when you're there. Because the
oh,
music is lesser quality, right? Like it's a concert. Like listening in your car or in headphones is gonna be better quality. So you're not going for the music experience. You're going for like the band's experience, right? The show they're performing.
and that's one thing that, like, when it comes to music, I seen Tragically Hip, and unfortunately Gord Downey's gone, but like I will never forget those concerts that I see, and it's never the same live versus what you hear on an album.
Mm-hmm.
Like again, the whole experience of that, you'll never achieve that listening to it on a computer or in your
Exactly
car,
right.
anything like that. You just will not achieve that experience. It's
See,
incredible.
we went to a rap concert a couple years ago, and we had a good time. But it definitely we like the most recent two that we went to in September, and the one I'm going to in a couple weeks are like punk rock concerts, like mid 2000s like punk music, and those concerts are a whole other story. Those are like the experience, right? Rap concert was good, but the vibes were not the same as a punk concert because those rock concerts they get down with that.
Oh yeah, like I've seen Nine Inch Nails, Tool, like that was wild.
Hmm.
Disturbed, Avenged Sevenfold, like I've seen a whole bunch of them.
I would
Again,
love to
like
see so much
oh
of them
yeah,
too. I'm constantly like lately at least I've been looking through like Ticketmaster and all these places to like monitor when concerts are popping up so I can just start going more because they're so cheap too. That's another thing. Like the smaller bands like punk rock that we've been going to, we paid like $30, $50 for the last couple. I paid like 52 for this most the next one, right? So cheap.
and I find even smaller venues are almost more right. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've gone with friends and tried to see bigger bands. Even more so at the beginning, especially because they are in smaller venues, right? It's again, it's way more intimate, it's way more up close and personal. You're way closer to the band, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and even if the sound isn't good, it ends up like echoing, and just that brings a whole nother experience to
It's the
it too. Like,
crowd
it,
too, right? Like a good
oh
hyped
yeah,
up crowd will make or break a concert.
oh
I
yeah,
was just telling someone the other day, I don't want to go to a concert in like an arena or like a stadium, places like that. I have no interest really because
it's
it's like
good.
I don't have any interest
You'll
in
go
going to a concert where I'm seated.
no,
If I have a ticket that is a seat number, I do not want to go as much as whenever I want to go to like
the
the ones I've been going to are like GA and like general admission, right? The one I'm about to go to is both. They have seating that was cheaper, but I bought the GA tickets where I can get like front row, like
yeah,
catch
and so
stuff in the crowd.
that's normally where I go. Front row, I want to be front row, either left or right. You don't want to be right in the middle because if it does get wild, you know what I mean? It's hard to hold
Mm-hmm.
position there and it's hard to stay there. So I normally go about an hour early. I'm normally front of the stage, normally GA. The problem ends up being is my dad goes to a lot of these and
Mm-hmm.
Bud, I need a chair. I need a chair, Bud. Bud, I need a chair. Can you get me a chair? I'm like,
No.
dude, we don't have chairs. Like, and so it's funny. He actually brought like a backpack chair thing, and we have a picture
In
of
the middle of
him
the GA.
in the middle of a big field in a concert, right? There's a whole bunch of people, and there's my dad just sat down on his little bag chair thing,
Jesus
chilling.
Christ.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Have you
Watch.
ever heard
Right?
of Warp Tour? I don't think it
Yes,
was
I
in
have
Canada. Did you
Warped
have
Tour.
it in
Yes.
Canada?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, that used to come to Toronto.
Okay.
I did.
Gotcha.
I never went to Warped Tour, but I did have friends that went to Warped Tour. Yes.
I went to a few. That's the type of music I've been going to lately. It's like Warp Tour bands. But I
So
miss
I
Warp
am
Tour.
curious, who are you going to see though? Like you kind of kept it as a
So
secret.
I went in September. I saw Escape the Fate, State
Nope.
Champs,
Nope.
and then in 2 weeks they weren't. Escape the Fate wasn't headlining, but they're why I went. And then in 2 weeks, I'm going to see Falling in Reverse.
No, don't know who that
Dude,
is
if
either.
you like punk rock music, Falling in Reverse is top tier. I love Falling in Reverse. I saw him, Roddy Radke, their lead singer. I saw Escape the Fate live at Warp Tour years ago. That's the last time I saw them. And it was the best show I've seen.
No
Like
way.
that show he put on was so good. Warp Tour was fire, bro. I miss Warp Tour, and they stopped it in like 2016 or something, right?
Yes.
So this, now that they're on tour now,
Yeah, but
so
is
good.
I heard Warped Tour was still going. If I'm not mistaken,
So
but
I
it's
don't think
not
they
as
are
good
right
a band.
now. I think so. They stopped in. Let me try to see. I think they stopped in 2016,
I have no idea.
and then they had one after that or two, like the years after, that was like only California or only like way less shows, right? Because they used to tour in Atlanta. That's where I went because it was close to me,
Okay.
right? Like it was an hour away
Yeah.
from me at the time. So they would tour everywhere, and then
Well,
they cut
they
it down to
used to
super
have-
exclusive, right?
They used to have massive bands, like massive, massive. That was all the biggest. You know what I mean? Like I remember some of the names, like Blink 182, if I'm not mistaken, Sum 41, like all those things from basically childhood
Yeah.
along those kind of lines, right? And bigger band, mind you. That's kind of what I was thinking of too. If I'm not mistaken, the Arkells played at the Super Bowl.
Arkells. I don't know them offhand.
I don't know if it was the Super Bowl or the Canadian. Now, and this is obviously goes to show how much I follow sports as of late. Like I used to be a big hockey fan and follow sports all the time, along with music, right? But yeah, the Arkells is I don't know, just a random. I had thought of that while we were talking. They played at again a huge venue there like that, and I got to see them in like a small venue. You know what I mean? Local here, so
Yeah.
totally different, right? Just thinking about that whole thing.
No,
But
I
yeah, I
love
haven't
it.
heard of any of those punk bands. And again, we had talked about this before, music and different, obviously having totally different, like what you're growing up with, what friends are listening to, like depending on, where
Yeah.
you are. Being in the US, you have totally different music. And I think that's the other thing too. Like a lot of these bands that I am listening to are Canadian bands, right? And so I'm assuming a lot of the bands you're listening to are probably from somewhere around where you are, right?
Yeah, true. Like at least American. I would say I think it's kind of surprising the music I do listen to now because where I was raised, it definitely wasn't like mainstream when I was growing up by far, right? Like it wasn't. Like I think I had a couple really good like close friends that listened to it, and that's how I got put onto it. At least like Escape the Fate and then Warp Tour, right? Like those like punk rock bands. Because where I grew up is mostly country for sure and
Oh,
rap,
see,
and I love rap,
I
but
grew,
I hate country. Like just
I
listening
grew
to
up
it.
I grew up. My dad is still a huge music guy. Like my dad loves music. You know what I mean? Always has,
Mm-hmm.
always will. And I think that was like a huge part of my growing up in like music. You know what I mean? Yeah, Tragically Hip. April Wine actually is another one. I don't know if you know
Mm-hmm.
who they are or not.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, Tragically Hip, April Wine. I used to ask my dad to put those CDs on when we would go for drives. Like put those CDs on. That's what I want to listen to, right? And so that was a huge part of my childhood. And yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
again, we went to go see the Hip. We went and seen April Wine together. Like I was lucky. I got to go see all these bands that you know what I
Yeah.
mean with my dad. So
See, that's
yeah, it was
crazy to
wild.
me. My parents would not do that now, or even when I was growing up, probably. I don't know. It wasn't that type of dynamic, really. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I was kind of introduced to a lot of different music growing up. My dad and his girlfriend played in a band, and my dad played a lot of classic rock on guitar. Like I know a lot of Jimi Hendrix, right, stuff like that, that era.
Yeah, okay.
And then like Ozzy, even he has a lot of friends. Like we would go to his friend's house and they'd be playing like Ozzy everything, right? So I was like
See,
War
that was
Pigs,
my high school. High school,
jamming War Pigs on New Year's at like 3 in the morning. But
yeah,
then their band
that was
played like not rock, but like 70s, 80s pop. Like what's her name? Carol King.
no.
They played a
I
lot of Carol
probably know
King,
some.
just random stuff, right? But like softer stuff. And
Yeah,
so I was introduced, and they would have like gigs, and I would like go help them set it up, go like watch them play, whatever. So I was introduced to a lot of music at a very early age, and like all throughout growing up.
yeah. Music has played a huge influence in my life for sure. Yeah, bands. I don't know. There's so much there that you know what I mean. Like
Mm-hmm.
it, 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 it brings back a whole ton of memories that you know what I mean, and experiences
Oh
that
yeah,
are almost hard to articulate because yeah, you'll never get those back. You know what I mean?
it's just like a memory, though, right? Like I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I think I hate the fact that I can't like replay that, or that a lot of memories I have, not even just relating to music, but a lot in music, are like mm, non-repeatable, right?
it,
Like I
I
can't
think that,
replicate anything like that. Like just that environment and like how I felt and everything at this point is like almost depressing to a point. The fact that I'm like I long for these memories or these like feelings and like reactions, right? I think that's the best word.
oh again, I that's exactly where I was going. You said I remember hearing Zeppelin for the first time, and if I'm not mistaken, I was in high school, and a friend was like put on a Zeppelin video, and I was blown away. I had obviously, yeah, started doing a bunch of other things that were new experiences as well,
Yeah.
and yeah, I was floored and blown away, and like Pink Floyd and all that. And I was surprised actually thinking about my dad that he never introduced me to that or never like that wasn't a big part of him. But I think I'm kind of glad it worked out that way because yeah, that was a whole
Yeah.
wild stage of my life. That yeah, Pink Floyd and Zeppelin and all the Hendrix, you know what I mean? You go down that like
Mm. Do you think
yeah,
you had a pretty
definitely.
like wild childhood,
Oh
or at
yeah,
least teenage years?
yes, yeah, and I'm glad I did it when I was a teenager. Um, there is pros and cons to it. You know what I mean? Like I do
Mm.
wish I let my brain develop a little more. You know what I mean? Before I started
Yeah, me too.
abusing it,
I
whatever.
wish your brain
Yeah,
was a bit more developed.
but at the same time, like I'm glad I don't have a bunch of charges when I'm an adult. I don't have things that are, you know what I mean, keeping me
Yeah.
from traveling or keeping me from being able to do things that I want to do, get jobs, whatever the case may be. Right. And it's not to say that people can't change and, you know what I mean, grow up from experiences. And a lot of it, I think that's the other thing, though. You know what I mean? Like you're told at a young age, grow up, do all these things, blah, blah, blah. Well, some people it takes a lot longer to grow up. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
finally start doing things. And yeah, I don't know. I was probably one of those guys, right? And I'll be honest, I still have a whole ton of growing up to do. I don't want to grow up. Like I really
Was
don't.
there like a turning point whenever it was like you were doing a bunch of crazy stuff, whatever, like over a line that you would draw today, and then was there like an immediate turning point that was different, or something that happened that made you stop doing all the crazy stuff, or did you just kind of like
Uh,
get bored of it, or just not around those people, or like what happened? Why aren't you like that now, or why weren't you
I
later?
I think it was, and so for me, it's really weird, but I really think birthdays and age played a big part in it. I turned 20 and it was like I'm 20 years old. Like I'm supposed to have be going to university or college or doing something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're supposed to know what you're going to do for a career and all these things, and I was like I really have no idea what I'm doing, and I know what I'm doing right now is just not good. It's probably not going to be a long-term thing. I'm not going to be here long enough if I continue to do what I'm doing. Drinking like crazy, just
Hmm.
being absolutely ridiculous. And it comes to a point like, again, arrested, dead, in jail, like where do you want to be, right? And then those are places that I had heard friends go, seen friends go, you know what I mean? I'd gone and visited on rare occasions, stay
Yeah.
overnight, whatever the case may be. And it wasn't, you kind of realize, like, hey, that's not what I want to do. That's not the life I want to live. You know what I mean? Obviously, I still have a little bit of that defiance and
Yeah.
whatever you call that problem with authority. That's exactly really right.
No,
Yeah,
really? What? No way.
just a little bit. Yeah,
No
and
way.
so yeah, I think that ends up still playing out in my day to day life, unfortunately.
No, that makes sense though. So you said you were
Yeah,
20 whenever you started, I guess, like changing. I guess
starting.
is the best
Oh,
word.
buddy, and again, you know what I mean? Like oh my goodness, 32 now and still growing up and still learning, still, you know what I mean? Like I'm still learning things
Yeah.
about myself and how my brain works and you know what I mean? Like I think that's one, again, huge benefit to social media as much as I've done, right? Like I've learned a lot about myself through social media and reading other people's posts and talking to other people and hearing their experiences, you know what I mean? How they live, what they're going through. Like I think that's brought a lot to me personally, right? And so as much as I've been really grateful that way, actually, social media and all that, I can't even.
Did
It's
you
been
drop
wild.
a lot of like friends or people you're around?
Um, So and they would probably say dropped. I'm not even gonna lie, but I think a lot of our group of friends did separate at a point in time. A lot of us kind of realized like, yo, this is what's gonna end up happening. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And as horrible as this is to say, like it took my buddy going to jail for, you know what I mean, a couple of us to smarten up. Some of us still haven't smartened up. You know what I mean? And some of
Mm-hmm.
us it's gonna take longer than others to smarten up. You know, I can't even say like I'm good. You know what I mean? Again,
Yeah.
I think I've been lucky. I can't even lie. Like I honestly believe a lot of my is luck. Like I have no idea how I've been able to do half the things I've done, get to where I've gotten. You know what I mean? Again, even when it comes to the whole social media experience, concerts, the amount of concerts I go to, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
still can't believe the experiences that I've been able to have. Like, it's unbelievable, and I am very grateful. Right?
Yeah.
Rent, I have a good thing. You know what I mean? Like I am
Right.
very grateful for a lot of these. Like it is unbelievable.
What do you think drove you to do like crazy stuff? Because here's the thing, I was never like, I definitely wouldn't classify myself as like doing a bunch of crazy stuff. Right? I know people that did, and I was friends, like acquaintances with some of them, right? But I mostly just kind of like hung out, like kept to myself, like didn't do anything too crazy. Like I've gotten myself in some crazy situations for sure that are like
Oh yeah.
way above average for some people. But then, like all in all, I would say the driving force between anything I've done that would even be considered crazy is probably money. That's probably my biggest downside is I'm just money hungry, right? Like even growing up, any sketchy situation I was in, any whatever, it was because of money, right? Like I just wanted to make money or whatever it was. But a lot
See,
of people just do it like for friends or whatever, right? Like,
I obviously, and it's funny. Like I think about it, and I was busy escaping reality. Like I know that was a big part of what I was trying to do. Like that was going to be my first answer, right? Escaping reality.
mm-hmm,
That's literally what I was trying to do. But there is a huge like, and it's funny when it comes to other things. Like there was a business side of me that, you know what I mean. I always kind of did like selling cigarettes. You know what I mean? I don't know if you're allowed to say
mm-hmm.
that, but yeah, like that's what I did in high school. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
sold cigarettes at the top of the hill. Like, and that was I don't know. I made a lot of money doing those. You know what I mean? Like there was always something on the side that was like hustle and it's funny like when you said the money part like I was like yeah I guess that did cause some problems. You know what I mean? Like obviously when you're selling things that you shouldn't be selling and up to no good and around not so good people, not so good things happen, and whatever, it leads to not so good circumstances. And so, yeah, like I do think that ends up playing a part in it too. But I guess, yeah, like part of it is money hungry, but part of it is trying to survive. Like I was
Hmm.
never get rich, get rich, get rich. Like I'm like, I just want to get another pack of smokes or be able to smoke for free, or you know what I mean? Like I just don't want to pay for
Hmm.
these things out of my pocket. How can I do it so that I can afford to do these things and not have to pay, you know what I mean, out of pocket? I wasn't working. I wasn't, you know what I mean? I never
Yeah.
and I guess that's one thing I wish I had, and it's funny I do have it now. But like a work ethic when I was a kid, like I never did. I started working, and it took plowing to really get a work ethic built. But that, yeah, like my work ethic. I wish I had my work ethic and my almost youth mentality because yeah, it would have been ridiculous.
See,
That would have
I
been a wild
am
experience.
so different in that aspect because I feel like actually I believe every situation that I can think of that was like over the top, like a bad situation, was because I was trying to make more and more money. And not just like survivable money. I wanted to like grow whatever I was doing. Like expand, not grow, but I wanted to expand on whatever I was doing to optimize it. And that put me in such bad I mean, I've been in bad situations compared to what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. I wasn't doing crazy stuff. But like every once in a while, I'd be in like a really sketchy situation. I'd be like, okay, well, this is worth it, and I would go back to it because the money was so good. And I think that hurt me now because I don't do anything illegal now for financial gain. Right, this stuff I was doing
No,
before at all. But I cut it out because of the risk, and because as I got older, I'm like, okay, this is now that I'm like an adult, like they'll just ship me to jail. The stuff that I
yeah,
was
but
doing that might give me a slap on the wrist would get me like 50 years. It would get me life in prison at this point, right?
well, and I think
So,
that becomes when all of a sudden the consequences become greater. I do think there's all of a sudden like a bigger click. But
hmm.
when you're and I do agree with almost like having an underage thing because again, when you're a youth, like you do all these dumb things and you really don't think about the majority of the consequences. Like I did a lot of things and didn't think about the consequences. I still do things and don't think about the consequences. You
See,
know what
I
I
would
mean?
say I weighed them and I chose money over the possibility of consequence because the way I looked at it at those times was the consequence, even if I have 2 years probation, a year of community service, even if I went to jail for like 6 months, it was still worth it with what I was doing in my mind. But now it's completely flipped. I guess it also is different because now I have like a house, like I share with my sister. So like I have a lot more like I have a car, right? Responsibility,
Responsibilities,
right? But I think
responsibilities.
barely. I think whenever you mention like you have a better work ethic, I am the opposite. I think my work ethic suffers now because of that. Because I was making money so easily before, between the ages of let's say 15 and 21, 22. I was making money so easily from anything, and legal or not legal, by the way, right? Like, or a
Yeah.
mixture. That's where I made the most money. It was a nice little mixture of the both, right? So I would have my legal job, and then I would have whatever I'm doing on the side that's double or tripling that income. And I'm having so much money at such a different age than a lot of people from those risky like expanding and doing different stuff than everyone else, but worse, almost like more risky. But so like I don't know. I
Money
feel like
just comes.
now it's just like I have to work so much for such a small amount of money and it kills my brain cells. Every day, if I have to go work for $8 an hour, it makes me dead inside, right? Comparative to before when I could make a phone call and make 300, right?
And it's weird though. Like I do think back. Yeah, money was a huge part of it because you're like, how am I gonna buy this? How am I gonna buy that? So like, there is some thing that like obviously you need to have money to do these things. But I think when it came to a lot of the side hustle and all the illegal nonsense, like I didn't want to be involved in that lifestyle. Like I knew I really didn't. And so like I tried to keep it small, close, personal friends, a lot of, and you know what I mean? As soon as you start to branch out from that, that's when problems start to happen. Like, no, tight, back in, right? Like, deal. And I let a lot of my other friends deal with that. And it ended up, my buddy ended up becoming probably, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Way too big for his own good. But at the same time, like, I'm glad I didn't have to deal with the issues that he was dealing with because it was ridiculous what he went through. Like, it was nonsense.
I'll
You know
tell
what I
you,
mean?
I'm very glad I was in a small town doing those things as opposed
Yes.
to a bigger area.
Yes.
Because if I was in a bigger area, the the chance or the opportunity for growth in what I was doing, I would definitely be in prison right now. There's no way, like 100%. And that sucks to say, right? But I think having the small town, it limited me so much to where if I got too big, it'd be noticeable. Like if whatever I'm doing is sketchy and I'm doing it to everyone, then everyone's gonna talk, right? In a town of 30, 40,000 people, compared to if I was like in a bigger area, even where I'm at now would be substantially worse, right?
That was one of the things that I always for a loop and kind of realize like obviously you're in a little bit over your head is when people come up and know who you are without you knowing who they are. That was, you know what I mean? And you
Yeah,
start
yeah.
to ask questions about what you're doing and how is this working. You know what I mean? You're having random people
Hmm.
approach you and it's like, I don't know, this is way maybe I am a little in over my head. Maybe I'm doing things that I shouldn't be doing. Maybe this is,
I think the
you know,
money aspect, I think it also ruined
like
a lot of things for me. I had too much money at too young of an age for where I lived. Like, I was making more than most, like, two parent households made in that town. I was making above average household income by myself at age 18, 19. Like, with the vape shop, right? Between the retail business in that town, which nobody had at that age, right? The fact that I came across it was like a gold egg. It was really just luck, right? The
I'm
way it all
still
lined
talking
up.
about of that.
It was not hard work. Like a lot of
Yeah,
people will
but
say,
and
"Oh,
that's
I
what
put
I'm
in so
saying. I
much
don't.
effort and hard work to get to where I'm at." No, it was none of that. It was luck and smooth talking people. Literally, that's all it was. And I got really good at smooth talking people. And even now, I can talk my way in or out of situations pretty
I
easily.
see. I would love to see this because I still haven't seen this smooth talking Drake you speak of. I'm just gonna throw that
Look,
out.
I've gotten, I don't know. But back to the money. The money became a problem because I think, I mean, I used to gamble a lot, right? And you knew that I had like, I don't even want to say trouble. I never put myself in a situation that was like non-recoverable or where I even needed to recover, right? I put myself in situations where I'm like, okay, this is bad. Like, this is way too much. But I've never been like, I can't pay my rent because I'm gambling. Oh, I gotta sell my stuff to gamble more. It's never gotten like that, right? But I
Okay.
definitely, and see, even what you've seen is nothing compared to when I had that shop. I was spending like at least $100 a day in lottery tickets. And that
But
is a
what's with
lot of
people? Yeah, but
money.
why is it when people get rich, that's what they want to do? They want to gamble more money. Like it.
I had
My
too
buddy
much
was
of it. But see, that's my problem. Like
the
I would
same
buy
way.
whatever, right? Like even anytime after 15, 16, like there was obviously stuff I wanted that was like super expensive. But anything that's less than $1,000, I would just buy it. Like if I like new consoles that come out, I'd buy them, right? Like I would own an Xbox One and a PS4. I'd get bored, sell them, buy something else, whatever, right? Like it was always just, what do I do with this money? Like I hate having it and just storing it. And especially at that time, I'm like, what am I saving this money for? Right? Like I don't. There's nothing else. I have a business in this small town. I have two
That yeah.
cars. Like I'm living. I'm whatever I want, or I can eat whatever and do whatever I want. So what do I do with all this money? So I might as well just risk it, right? And I think that stemmed from having too much money, like the gambling. But it was a lot. I mean, literally $100 a day. Sometimes it would go up to like 300 a day, right? Just depending. I've dropped $200 in one night, like over 200 at a gas station, to where the clerk literally was begging me to stop playing and stop buying. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, but see, and that's that I'm thankful. I was never a big. I still am not a big gambler. I hate gambling. I'm not a big fan of it
Mm-hmm.
at all. Like I been in a casino probably maybe 5 times total. Right? You go spend $20. I'm like, okay, that was fun. The bells and whistles, the lights. You watch all these people, and they just like ching, ching, and I'm like, yo, this place is wild. It's not my thing. I'm thankful that I was never a fan. But yeah, I watched a friend play $1,000 dice. Like I can't even. I couldn't do that. You know what I mean? I just
See,
couldn't.
that's the problem. I definitely could. I think here's the main reason I think I started. It was a mixture of all this money, but I think it was also the emotional point of where I was, and any time since that I've gambled has probably been at a point where I'm like, if I'm feeling mentally down, then the chance to feel mentally up is worth the money investment for me. Because I care, whenever I get like that, I don't care about money. That's the problem. That's my
Yeah, but
biggest. Like, if I
the
get like
losing
super down
feeling,
one day, right?
that losing feeling though, I can't deal.
But see, that's
I
my thing. The losing makes me want to win more. And even if I do lose, that's a different feeling than being like depressed over something. So if I'm feeling like mentally down one day, like emotionally like just broke at that moment, and I go and I can redirect that energy and that thought process to something different that takes my entire thought process doing it, then it helps. At least for, I mean, temporarily. Obviously, it's not a good fix, right? I'm not advocating for it at all. It's a terrible way to fix your problems. But
was
at the
gonna say
time,
there.
when you have a ton of
Great
money,
advice.
right?
Great advice for everybody,
Like when
by
you
the
have
way.
that much extra income
That's
and you're like,
exactly what you
okay,
should do,
I
dude.
feel
Go
terrible
gamble
today,
all your
so
money away.
ever
Gamble it
get
all
sad?
away and be
Just
done
go
with it.
drop like a grand at a casino. You'll thank me
Yeah,
later.
we see and like again, I'm so not that way. I just cannot do that.
Hmm.
There is absolutely no way I could go and do that. I would now see if I turned 20 into 40, I would keep playing with 20 until I lost the 20 and put $20 in my pocket.
There's a
Right?
point. I have a
But
really hard time stopping. I mean, that's definitely the biggest issue, right? I wasn't going into
I
convenience
know.
stores and dropping $150 in one
Sound like
purchase.
all those lovely other people I promote so well. Just say no. Just stop doing it right
Yeah,
now. Just
right.
stop it
It
right
is
this
so
second.
much harder.
Don't
I don't know. I mean, I envy people
anymore.
that don't have that thought process, right? And they can just say like, "Oh, this is dumb. I'm just not going to." But my brain, the way it functions in that moment, is just, "Oh, I'm down 40. I need to bet 60 so that after I win, I'm up." Right? Because if I keep betting small, I'm down. If I stop, I'm down. The only way to recover.
See, that
That's what
thought
happened.
process right there confuses me. I'm like, yo, I don't even know how you think like that. There's absolutely no logic whatsoever, sir.
Dude,
None.
that's what happened at the casino that time, right? It was
Yeah,
just
well, I seen.
I was too
I've
far
been there.
down, and that was the problem. I could not
I told you
recover.
walk away, bro. You wild. I walked away. I probably went to get a drink. If I'm not gonna, well, I'm not
Dude,
gonna lie,
you
but it.
whenever you walked away, it was nowhere near as bad as it got.
Oh, I know. I had to walk away. I was like, yo, you nuts, bro.
I think it's because I
That's
was up the
absolutely.
first night. The first night we were there, it was all like more chill vibes. I was just like relaxing, having fun with friends, like drinking some. It was good, right? That I got too cocky the second night. I was like, "Oh, I won 80 last night. Let's go win 800 tonight, baby." I got too excited, and that ruined me that night. That was not my best time.
Unbelievable.
I can tell you that. One
See,
hand. That video is still out there somewhere.
goodness,
Someone has it, I'm
unbelievable.
sure. It's circulating around somewhere.
I bet you I know exactly.
I could probably hit someone up and get it if I
Yeah, I was
try.
gonna. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
bet
mean, it's been a few
you.
years, but I think I don't know. That was
I
wild.
think our buddy in Michigan would have it. I think he would have it.
No, no, different person.
Oh,
He wasn't there. I can tell you later who it would be, but
we
brutal.
won't. We won't name names. We'll try and
Yeah,
keep it
yeah.
all.
Colorado friends would have it. Colorado friends.
Oh.
But yeah, that was a rough night. But I think that taught me a valuable lesson. I have not gambled anywhere close to that, anywhere like extra like that, and since then. And before
Good.
that, I was gambling a lot more, obviously, right? But
Well, yeah, it's
that
about
big
time you
loss
smarten up.
cut
It
me
took,
off.
yeah. I only gave you trouble. I still give you trouble about it. So
You
yeah, I
live and
definitely.
learn. You live and
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I think that's all everybody's trying to do is just live and learn. You know what I mean?
learn.
You
No,
keep living, you keep learning. Throw some music in there. I can't lie. That makes everything better. I really
that
like
is it.
again, this whole podcast thing is absolutely insane. So like when you had said the broadcast thing, I can't help but think that like, what if like throw some music on and then go take a break, like back,
Yeah.
and then I can make fun of you some more, and yeah, get in trouble about all these things.
There we go.
No, but yeah, I definitely, money. I I'm glad I learned a lot of those experiences at a young age, and again, I didn't. Thankfully, I didn't have to learn gambling. Like I watched a
Hmm.
lot of other friends lose money, and I was like, yeah, I'm not down. I lost $5. I'm out.
See, and there's a lot
five
of other
bucks.
things. I think even with gambling, I'm grateful it was gambling and not worse stuff that I've seen. I've seen people get into drugs worse, alcohol really bad, right? And that's really, it's all really the same when you look at it, essentially. Some of it's a
Yeah,
lot
well,
worse,
yeah,
right? But like,
you find your crutch and what you want to do and enjoy, and
yeah,
that's
I
probably one of
think
the.
gambling is something that was a lot easier to, I don't even want to say recover from because that, I don't want to stretch it to the point of people that do struggle with recovery and addiction and try to put myself on that same level because I feel like that negates their addiction and recovery process, right?
Oh, and
Because
that's
there are
the
people that have it a
whole.
lot worse than what I did, for sure. It is
Oh
not
yeah,
even a comparison at that point.
no,
But
and
I think my level, I'm grateful it was a lot easier to come back from and to kind of like just drop essentially cold turkey than, let's say, drugs, alcohol. Like, there's a lot worse things. Even gambling. There's people that gamble have a lot worse of a gambling addiction, and it's a lot harder to recover from
it's
that, right?
no, of course, and it's funny. Like I watched, yeah, I a buddy basically turned that into trying to make money legitimately, and you know what I mean. Now, like playing stocks,
Ooh.
right?
See,
Yeah, but and it's funny. Again, there's a lot to learn there, but there's a lot of people making a lot of money. The financial market is massive,
but see, that's
and
the
so
thing. Like, I look at that and I feel almost definitely not the same about gambling. I don't turn to stocks in depressive episodes, right? But I would say in the moment, it feels eerily similar when you're playing with stocks and when you're gambling.
yeah, but so there becomes math, right? And obviously when you're playing with numbers and doing all these things, right? Numbers become a big thing, percentages, all these things. And if you're good with this and able to do this very quick, right? Like again, pretty ridiculous, right? Done,
Mm-hmm.
flip, gone. Here's your percentages. You're up. You win, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and there is some. Again, obviously you can't predict everything, right? But if you can play it for real, right? And predict patterns and mathematical equations, whatever else is going on there, right? I do
With
find it a
stocks or
little
gambling.
well, but there's the difference, right? Yeah, but when you think about gambling and in general, right? There's guys that go in and blackjack. Why? Because they're counting cards and able to do all those things no
So
matter
here's the
what.
thing that I've learned.
Is that gambling though? Is that gambling or is that just using right problem statistics and because you're good at it, you're able to take advantage of the situation?
I think it's a blur in your mind when you actually. I mean, blackjack is my game of choice, right? I love blackjack
Yeah, but are
way
you
more than I
counting
should.
cards and doing all those things?
I'm trying to, in my mind. I mean, obviously, I know I'm not doing it efficiently. Nobody with an average IQ, even high IQ, you'd have to have a very special skill set to count cards effectively in a casino nowadays. Now, if this were 60 years ago, you might could do it a lot
Yeah.
easier, right? But
Oh yeah.
nowadays, I mean, these casinos are using auto shufflers. They're using 6 decks, 4 decks at a time, right? You cannot count those cards, no matter how much you're trying. It would take years of strenuous practice, learning, so much time, right? In order to
Yeah,
even
but
like
you still
halfway get
see
it.
but there's still guys that get banned.
Yeah, but it's far and few between when you look at all of them. Like, but even in my mind,
Yeah.
I'm looking at a table and I'm saying, okay, there's no face cards on this table. I bet he's going to pull a face card. I'm betting that he will pull a face card or he will not based on the table and based on the last hand and the last hand, whatever, right? So it's not like I'm actively like I am trying to count the
Yeah, but see,
cards
there's
to
the difference
improve
between
my odds.
gambling and statistics and probability. Again, if you could actually count the cards and know what was exactly going on,
I
your
mean, yeah,
odds of winning
it's
are going to
essentially
be a
like
lot
I'm
higher.
using statistics. I'm just not good at it in gambling. I mean, nobody,
Yeah, well,
barely anybody
see,
is, right?
you got to
But I
find
think
someone
it's the
that's good
same with
at it.
stocks, though. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of stocks is not probability, though. I would say gambling is more statistics and probability than stocks are. Stocks react a lot on emotion, like societal emotions. I mean, I saw the other day, I watched a video where there was like an actor in a show died, and then this stock went completely down afterwards, right? That doesn't do anything. That's not realistic, right? But when you look at GameStop, every statistic you can find on GameStop isn't going to tell you that it went up to $350, right?
No, no, no.
Beforehand. But it's just the human emotion, right? So I think, I don't know.
I think a
In the
human emotion
moment,
plays a big part in everything. Again,
yeah,
from everything we've talked about, right? Like,
that is
I,
true.
from trying to escape reality to listening to music and escaping reality that way. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's all everybody's trying to do is just get by, keep
There's
living.
that gist of this week's episode is human emotion sucks. It is terrible. All emotions are bad emotions. That's a wrap.
Not necessarily. You can use them to your advantage, right? Is definitely what I would try and again, living, growing, trying to, you know what I mean? Like even learn yourself what you're good at, what you're not, and use those to your advantage,
Yeah.
right? It's a lot harder when you're a youth, but again, as an adult, you're able to spend time doing these things, right? Like you don't when you're a kid, you don't think about these things at all. All of a sudden, you're an adult. Hey, what can I use to my advantage? What can I not? Where's my strengths? Where's my weaknesses? Right?
That's very true. Do you feel like you've learned a lot about yourself in recent times?
Yeah, like I said, with the social media and all this, even this podcast, right? Just talking, doing all this, it's been an insane experience. Nothing. Had you told me 5 years ago that this is what I would be doing, I would have told you you're crazy.
How do you feel
Right?
about
There's
this
no.
year? With it coming to an end, we have what? 1 day left, right? Does December have
It's
30
almost
or
over.
31 days? I don't know.
Really? 31, sir.
It has 31 days. I doubt you can do that until very recently. You must have looked at a calendar recently.
No, it's 31 December. There's
Okay,
things I
whatever.
just
Point
know.
is, we have 1 day left of the year, last podcast of the year. Do you feel like this year has been productive or not?
This podcast has been the most productive that I've actually.
I actually agree, depressingly. That is true. I think I've been more productive in for myself in the last 30 days, whether it be figuring out what type of stuff I want to do, learning new stuff, or even the desire to learn new stuff in the last 30 days has been actively higher.
Well, that's good. I'm glad I could help, sir.
No, I have to carry you. That's what I'm trying to learn how to do. Is carry a human Canadian man on my back every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/babbling over borders.
Oh yeah, just keep plugging it, sir. You can
Every
definitely carry
time.
me there.
I have no shame. Not at all.
So I don't even remember what I was. Total break.
And back at it. Carrying this
Yeah,
man every
carrying me.
Thursday.
Yeah, you're. Yeah. Well, you know what, sir? I'll keep showing up. You can keep pretending to carry me, and we'll keep
There we
this
go.
going, right?
I
Like
have
this
some
is.
interesting stuff planned for the next year for this podcast and for life in general. But I think this has been the most productive podcast we've had also. Everything worked how it's supposed to this time.
No way. We actually did it. We nailed it. Like and
All
we're
right.
what? Right at an hour-ish mark? You know
We
what I mean?
are. Look at
Yeah.
us. Made it through.
Holy. Professional and everything.
We finished 2021 on a high note.
Look at us moving up, sir.
Mm-hmm. Trying to at least.
I'm just gonna say though, you do need a collar.
I
look forward to dressing up.
Oh, I know.
This is the one time a week I get to put on like a nice collared shirt and pretend to look nice. It's funny, all the audio listeners don't get to see, but again, you can come view and comment and do all those things yourself if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Twitch.tv/babbling over border.
Look at you. That's beautiful. For any of our Twitch audience who would like to check out or share the podcast with friends, family, random people in the street, whoever, I don't care, get a billboard. It'll be on Spotify tomorrow. It'll be on YouTube tomorrow. Get all platforms. It'll eventually be on TikTok, Instagram, wherever. Just go find us. There will be something there.
No way.
Even moving Facebook until we get banned. So you better catch the Facebook quick because it will be gone before a lot of people even find it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the YouTube is here to stay. And Spotify.
I told you Facebook would, I'm not sure how long that'll last, but it's there for now. We'll see what ends up happening. I'll definitely throw the video up there. It'll be on there.
Just go find us. Share with your friends. Get us some sponsors. We're just in it for the money. That's it. We hate it. No. We're just here to get rich. This is a get rich quick scheme. It's just not working.
I'm trying to learn about you. You're trying to get rich. You're on a totally different level.
I already know way too much about you, bro. I'm here for the money. You cannot pay my bills. Knowledge doesn't pay rent. Sponsors pay rent. No, I don't see us getting sponsors anytime.
We should learn some things too while we're doing this. Like that's what I want to do. I'd like a little bit.
I think one of my favorite parts about this is about to come up. And it will be the second hour of our podcast, which is Twitch exclusive. I feel like this is a pretty good time to cut it for audio and YouTube.
There we go.
Afterwards, we do 1 hour Twitch exclusive every Thursday from 9 to 10, roughly. Sometimes more. First time it was about 2.5 hours extra, but we just go with the flow.
Wants to keep talking and talking. This guy will talk forever.
It's a lot of listening. I have to cut it off. My ears start to bleed eventually. So we're trying to save the audio listeners 1 more hour of Anthony talking. That is 1 hour is plenty to hear his voice. So we're saving you guys, trust me. But check us out, Spotify, YouTube for the people here, and the people not here just listening. Twitch.tv/babbling over borders.
Okay, I'm gonna go start reading comments, sir.
Okay, let's do it.
Everyone enjoys. Peace.
Ooh, let's see what we got in the comments. If he ever makes the page, I agree.
Where are you located?
I am in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Topher.
I play folk punk. Yes, Topher, yo.
I got you a burrito. Nice. That's the news I want to hear. None of the comments even come close to that one. She just won comment of the week. Goes to Ashlyn, F-U. And some cinnamon twist. Oh my God. I thought she got a good burrito. Never mind. It was a Taco Bell burrito. So I take that back immediately. She just won worst comment of the week. You killed me. I was hoping like Chipotle or something. But
I would totally go for some Taco Bell right about now.
No, bro. Late night Taco Bell on a Thursday in Chattanooga? No, sir. I know whatever she's eating in there is not good.
Oh, no way. Australia's here too.
I don't know who Australia is. Hello, Australia.
People from all over the world, sir. And I think that's one thing we should actually try and do in the new year too, is get some guests on. I know our friend England over there is just dying to have a good conversation here.
I know. We can get people from all around the world. If you want to be on the show, send us a message. You probably know us. You can find us. If you don't, send us a
Oh yeah,
message.
we could definitely and probably get the Australian on. See what he's saying all the way down there. I definitely that work. That would be pretty cool. Fine. Again, we're supposed to be over border, sir, arguing about Canada and the US.
Here we go. Y'all should do food differences. LOL. All the crap food we eat here in the US. You know what? We've touched on it a little bit before, but we can right now. The food here sucks, and the food in Canada is good. That's it. That's a wrap. Have a good night, guys. No,
Yeah,
I told him
see,
when I first went to Canada, I thought of the food there that I ate was like amplified American food. So it wasn't like its own thing, most of it. It was like they took our food and made substantial improvements on it. Even fast food, which is pretty crazy. So, like poutine. Poutine, super good. They have butter tarts, phenomenal. Butter tart is like a pecan pie, but better.
oh, this
Pecan
guy
pie is
had a
pretty good,
heyday.
bro.
He
But
went nuts
let me
when he
tell you,
came up lost it, bro.
I
A
think
baguette, a
all the
baguette.
food, yeah, dude.
I had to
Baguette with
go make
goat
baguette.
cheese, it's crazy, bro. Everything is so good there. But it's not anything like, it's not a different genre of food, right? It's not like Mexican food, Greek food, Italian food, how it's vastly different. It's just so improved. Even McDonald's, they have like 8 different McChickens, bro. What do you?
No,
I don't. We
hold
have
on.
one McChicken. When I went up there, you had like 4 different McChickens. You had one for every like what do you call it? Pepper there is. Habanero McChicken, jalapeno McChicken, Ghost
No,
Reaper. I
yeah.
don't care, bro.
That's
So
McDonald's trying to sell burgers. Can they put a bit of little hot sauce on? Ridiculous.
no, I agree.
Garbage.
It wasn't that good. I think
Steak
that
and
burger
shake.
place.
That
Where?
that
What's that burger
steak
place we
and shake.
went to when I was up there?
Steak and shake.
Not up there.
Go to steak and shake. I like that place.
What was the name of it when I went up there?
Harvey's.
Yeah, Harvey's hits the spot. That's a good place.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah. Like
relatively
Harvey's.
inexpensive.
I'll agree.
Harvey's is pretty good. It's like a Subway for burgers. That's cool. We don't have that. We have like a Five Guys. It's kind of, I don't know. Five Guys probably better. But this is cheap and fast.
We
Harvey's is
have
good.
Five Guys up here. They
Yeah,
came up. See,
that's
some of
pretty
the
cool.
U.S. came up. Like we had Target for a while. They didn't last very long. Five Guys came up. They're still up here. There's a couple other ones. You know what I mean?
They have a
Um,
good chain. Do you have Burger King? You do, right?
yeah, we got Burger King. Oh yeah, Burger King, McDonald's. Those are like the biggest, the baddest.
I just think you have a lot more. You're a bigger city. Toronto is a bigger city.
Toronto's big, yeah.
So than anywhere I go on a normal basis here. So I feel like a lot of the food differences is just the bigger city aspect, not necessarily Canadian exclusive. Like a lot of
No,
Greek food, Indian food, we don't have that
yeah,
where
that's
I
because we
live,
went.
but
Yeah, we went to Toronto, and that's why you're used to that. And Toronto's very diverse. Toronto's massive. It's one of the biggest cities in Canada, sir.
I
Right?
know.
So,
But that's
like,
kind of why I
my
like the
friend,
what I like the most is the diversity, right? I mean we kind of do, but not at all on that scale. You have a
yeah,
hundred Greek restaurants, 100 everything, right?
we're in Toronto. It's very different. Like, you seen in my city, we don't have, like, that
Yeah.
same, right? We have, like, a Greek restaurant. We have a Chinese restaurant. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I
Thai.
get that.
Like, Toronto's got, yeah, hundreds different, all kinds of them. There's streets of different, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That's sort of like what LA was, right? LA had a lot of different types of food. So it's hard for me personally to compare it.
Yeah,
But
no.
I guess it's
My buddy
probably
gets that.
just
He
as
doesn't
hard for
have.
him almost because every time he traveled, for the most part, is like bigger areas or for events. And that's a little different than like living, right?
See, like, and it depends on where you are in Canada. So, like, my buddy's out on the East Coast, and he doesn't have like falafel or anything like that.
Hmm.
Uh, oh my goodness, chicken shawarma? Like, none of those restaurants. He's got Donair though, and I'm like, I would trade you Donair for chicken shawarma any day. And he's like, Yo, trade. Like, let's do
That's
this.
pretty crazy, bro. I cannot get
Yeah.
behind that.
So it does depend on where you are in Canada, right? Like, if you went out to the
Hmm.
East Coast, you need a lot more like seafood, donair. Yeah, that.
What is your favorite place you've eaten in Canada?
Oh, Donair.
Really?
Donair.
Top of the
Yeah,
list.
that's yeah. I don't know
And what
why
is your
that's
favorite place? I can already answer that, but you can go ahead
yeah.
and say it out loud. Your
Steak
favorite
and Shake.
U.S. place, Steak. So comparatively, between Donair and Steak and Shake, what do you pick?
Oh yeah, but see, like Donair's more like a pita. Steak and Shake was like just a bomb burger. I don't know. Like out of all the fast food, I don't know
Mm,
why that one
oh shit.
tickled
So,
my fancy.
what
That's I
about
don't
what is
even
that
know why
chicken
it's so good.
place? What is that chicken
What?
place?
KFC,
No, the good one.
Popeyes. We have
No, we don't have it. We don't have it here.
good chicken place. I don't know what you're talking about,
We
sir.
had it when I was there. What's it
No
called?
idea. Good
Oh my
chicken place
god.
that you don't.
Tammy, jump in here. I don't know. They had those things. They're like little potato balls or something.
Nope. You
Swiss
lost.
Chalet. Thank you, Tammy. We're
Oh
replacing this
my.
Canadian with a much more informed Canadian next week, guys. That's what
We're just supposed to
2022 brings
know.
you. They
It,
bring.
oh my goodness.
Bro, if she
Yeah,
knows, you should
supposed
have
to
known.
know.
What do you mean? Swiss Chalet. That's pretty good.
No, sir.
Pierogies. Pierogies. I thought it was pierogies with
Pierogies.
an O.
Oh my goodness.
Pierogies. Yeah,
Wow.
pierogies are
I
fire.
I
That's
had
good.
pierogies not even that long ago. Pierogies are bomb.
Yeah. So we have them. I think I can buy them in some places. I know Costco had them, but it's not the same thing, right?
Bro, it is. You literally just cook them, fry them in a
No,
pan.
bro. It might be the same to you, but it's not the same to me.
Well, that's
They were extra good that day. I agree. That was some good food. Pierogi, Swiss Chalet. I don't even really still understand what Swiss Chalet
how do
is,
we get
if we're
on
being
food?
honest. It's like a
On food.
fancy KFC, I guess. I don't
Wait,
know.
Swiss
Swiss
Chalet?
Chalet.
No. Bro, that's I see, and it's weird. I've been like Swiss Chalet's been around since I was a kid. Another
Like if you take
thing.
an Olive Garden and a KFC and combine them, that's what I imagine Swiss Chalet is.
Really?
Yeah, I think. I don't know.
No. I like it is a fancier, but they've been around for so long, and now like they had to change and do a whole bunch of different things because like no one really and
That
everybody
even
likes
makes sense.
KFC and Popeyes.
I hate KFC other than once every like 6 months, maybe.
Oh yeah, throw some gravy, fries.
Your audio's cutting out a bit.
You're cutting out, sir.
There we go. You're probably just not talking loud enough, which is
You're
crazy coming
probably
from you.
not talking loud enough. Yeah, this whole mic thing, I gotta
KFC
learn.
is garbage. Popeyes is actually even worse. I hate Popeyes. There's nothing there I want to eat ever.
I keep reading this comment and it's definitely
What is the
totally
comment?
changed the subject, but
Go for it.
you changed when your eldest was born.
I've heard that a lot, actually. Like
Kids,
big life
kids, kids,
events,
kids.
kids, stuff like that. I guess
Well,
you kind
yeah,
of
Swiss
have to,
Chalet and
though,
me.
or be a terrible parent. Those are really the options, right? I guess most people look at that and they're like, well, I don't want to be a terrible parent. So
Well,
chicken and
I
ribs
mean,
and chicken pot pie and everything chicken. See, I don't. Yeah, I think that's like a fancy KFC, right?
yeah, that's literally it's just chicken.
So there
Pretty
you go.
good, pretty good chicken. I'm not gonna
Pierogies
lie.
are so good. I need to come up there.
Anytime, sir. Let me know.
That actually leads me into my next point that I did not want on the audio version because
Uh
we've
oh.
touched on this subject before. I don't want to do a lot of like repetition that early, right?
Yeah.
With Canada to get in, I have to go get vaccinated. That's where this part comes in. My parents, my mom and my stepdad, both have COVID right now, and they are both. I don't want to say anti-vaxxers. They would hate me for saying that. They are anti this vaccination and anti-mask. I would consider them. They'll wear it only when they are absolute like they have to go into places like the doctor's office or something like that. But anywhere else, they'll be like, I want to go somewhere else if they require masks, stuff like that, right? Very anti-mask, anti-vaccine, anti-COVID regulation mandates. and they both
Yeah.
have COVID as of right now. My mom went and got tested today. My stepdad is very sick as we speak.
That's not good.
Yeah.
But it seems to be spreading around right now. Unfortunately, there is people that are gonna get sick. As you know, my mom and stepdad had it. My stepdad was crazy sick, stupid sick.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
How did
you
they
know,
feel about mask mandates, regulations, stuff like that?
they followed all of it up until that. They were all for it. Yeah, like they were all. My stepdad was actively trying to get his vaccine. So yeah, that ended up changing it a little bit because they had followed the rules to the best of their ability and done what everybody had asked.
Yeah.
Again, I think a lot of the outcomes there is where a lot of the questions still lay. You know what I mean? Like what ends up happening? How does this end up working? How does it play out?
I
Right?
agree. I think I don't know. I mean, obviously, I hope my parents are good. My mom said she's feeling a lot better. It only hit her for like a day or two,
Yeah, but
but the
here's
sickness, and now she just can't smell. And my stepdad just got hit today with the whole like he has like 102 fever, bad flu type
so they
shit
both
right
went and tested
now.
positive. And what did the doctor give them once they tested positive?
Nothing.
Yeah, but do you not see something wrong there? Like normally, if you go to the doctors and have a whatever, what do they fix it? They give you a medication right then and there, and then you go home and you start to
What do they
try and feel
give you
better.
though? Would you okay? Here's a question: would you rather them give you something that they don't know would work, or give you nothing?
Well, I I'm not saying again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know for sure. But normally, when you go and get diagnosed with something, they have some sort of treatment to give you. And obviously, with it being new, to a certain extent, right? They're not going to know exactly what to give you, but based off the symptoms and what happened, they should have an idea of where to start,
From
right?
my understanding, it's just super similar to the flu, but it can escalate. So I feel
So,
like it's more treating the symptoms as they appear. So when you go to the doctor and you have the flu, they don't really give you anything. They just tell
yeah,
you
but
like
why
take
are we waiting
NyQuil or
until
something.
people are can't breathe and need a ventilator before giving treatment?
But what do they give you until the symptoms hit you? Like preemptive symptom blockers? I don't understand.
Well, so like again, normally if I had a breathing issue as an asthmatic, my doctor would make sure that I have puffers, make sure that those things are going well. He, depending on my breathing and those things, might prescribe me like a steroid or something like that,
But those are
right?
symptoms, right? You already have. So
So
if you
and
went to the doctor with those symptoms, you would get something to help with those symptoms. But if you go with COVID in the stages of where it's essentially the flu, they give you, or they would tell you, from my knowledge, what they would tell you if you had the flu, which would be get lots of rest, drink lots of liquids, take NyQuil, whatever, until it flushes out. And then if other symptoms do come out, then they would like what do you call it? Pneumonia. It can turn into pneumonia, right? And then they treat
yep.
you for pneumonia. But there's not really that I know of, and like a pneumonia cure, obviously, right? Like a preemptive pneumonia blocker.
They have tons of things that they get pneumonia with. People get pneumonia all the time. That's a
I mean,
common.
beforehand, right? Like
Yeah,
before you get
that's
pneumonia, they don't give you anything to stop you from getting pneumonia.
No, but if they suspect that you're going to end up with, they'll try and do things to prevent you from getting pneumonia, right? Like, especially depending on where you are within the hospital. Like, if you're in critical care, they're going to do as much as they can to try and not get you more sick, right? Like, you know what I mean?
I mean,
But
I guess that's the same though, really. I mean, with what you're talking about, I don't see the difference. And if you're testing positive, what would they give you?
again, I don't necessarily know. I'm not a doctor, bro. Like, you're asking, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
mean, I just don't think there is anything, right? Like, I don't think there's anything they can preemptively give you At least not
Well,
on a
and
mass
you,
scale. Like,
it does depend. Well, and there comes a whole nother issue, right? Everybody is different, and everybody's body is different, and everybody has different allergic reactions. So one shoe doesn't fit all, and it never has, and it never will, right? Again, if for anybody that knows medication, they should know that it's not a new. You know what I mean? Like that's very common knowledge, right? You take Tylenol or Advil, and I take Tylenol or Advil, and we're gonna have a different reaction to
yeah,
that Tylenol or Advil, even if we take the same Tylenol, the same dose, the same whatever at the exact same time,
yeah.
right? We're going to both have a different experience. Our bodies are going to be different. So again, medication is never a one size fits all thing. Again, that's one thing that is blown me away when it comes to some of the responses to COVID, right? That you would expect one medication to fit all. And like, there's another actual point looking at the comments here, like, they don't even know exactly what they're giving, right? So,
I
like,
think that's the problem.
well, and so again, there's so much unknown, but to me, you would treat symptoms that you do know and are capable of treating. You wouldn't start doing a whole bunch of new random things, throwing all kinds of random odds and ends at it. And obviously, if it's doing vastly different things than what the normal flu is, it's a little hard and a little different. But we're what, 2 years into this?
Mm-hmm. That's another
So,
thing. I would be interested in seeing people that got it very early on, what the doctors said or did at that point, like what they were
well,
prescribing, if they were prescribing something to like test it, right? As opposed
yeah,
to
but
now, I bet a lot more doctors are more cautious about what they give out, what they even say, because they know that if they
they're
do or
still
say the
doing.
wrong thing, people are going to post it, people are going to share it. It's like how cops are more cautious when they're being filmed. You see all that, right? Same concept, really.
I actually found a whole bunch of clinical trials that are ongoing. I found like a majority of them and what they're doing. So some of them are kind of crazy. Like, and I actually shared one the other day, and they're using another vaccine as a placebo to see if the Moderna mRNA is good as a third dose. And all the participants
No.
are going to receive their second dose, or will have received 2 doses of mRNA, the Moderna. They're going to see if a third works, but they're they're half of who they're testing. They're going to give a placebo or control of another vaccine. So it's not even a placebo. It's not a true placebo. Normally, a
I
placebo
don't
is a
know.
non-effect, like you do it against nothing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it would
yeah.
be okay. Is this vaccine effective or is this vaccine effective? But I don't think that's what they're doing, based off of what I read. Again, I'm not a scientist either. You
Yeah,
read,
I definitely don't have enough information or knowledge
I,
to
and
like
that's what I would.
get too into it.
When we do these shows, that's one thing that I don't know how we start to incorporate and how we get it so that way people can see the information. I have linked to the information that I'm talking about. It's
Hmm.
easily accessible information, right? I have no problem sharing it with whoever it needs to be shared with. Are we allowed to share that in the comments? Do we add that like underneath the videos? I don't know how we end up incorporating the information
I
that we're
think
sharing
one thing I do want to
into.
work on in 2022, moving forward with this podcast specifically, is ways to visualize more what we're talking about as we go. Not just necessarily COVID related stuff, but really anything. Especially when we start getting guests and like talking more worldwide issues and stuff. Canada and US are very similar in law and I don't know,
Yeah.
like whatever, anything because we're so close. But whenever we start bringing in other people from around the world, I would like a way to more visualize things. So that is
Well,
something I want to work on. But as of right now, we don't really have a way that I would deem effective and safe for our channel. I don't want
and
to plug anything links. I don't want to do any links or anything like that. Anything we do do like that. I would want it to be a visual on screen as we're talking about it, more like a reaction to it, less than sharing information. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah,
I mean,
and
like I've said before, that's where you go down a rabbit hole, right? Like I wouldn't want to share information and then it come out that it is vastly incorrect, and then someone got the link and just went straight to that and didn't hear what we're saying. But this is all just us reacting to information. It is not.
yeah, but and that ends up being the problem with, I think, the majority of information, right? You're given a bit of information. People don't necessarily always have all the context, and they just go and repeat a little bit of it. It's then taken
Mm-hmm.
vastly out of context, and you're left with
Yeah.
something vastly different than what was actually originally said. So I do see a big problem there. I do agree. Like, again, when it comes to a study like that, like, I don't even want to bring up something without being able to show someone what I'm speaking about, or why
No.
I'm to the conclusions that I'm coming to, right? But I do think that is something that we're going to have to work on, especially if we're going to be touching on things like that, right? And again, having different points of view, right? Like, how do we incorporate, if they all of a sudden have a link or something to share, right? A visual, like, how do we get that on there and so other people can see it? But, and how do we, like, there becomes a whole nother problem. Obviously, we're talking, doing video, but how do you get the visual effects into an audio format? Right? Do you need to sit down and read the document word for word? Like, I'm not sure how that ends up working
I'm not
for
sure. There's a
audio.
lot of like back end things we'll have to figure out and kind of work with. I think, like I said, that's definitely a point I want to work on moving forward into continuing this podcast 2022. But there is a lot of like back end stuff, and that's the main reason we're not doing it now, right? For people that are watching, that we're not just throwing up everything we're talking about and sharing all this stuff, and not even diving that deep into stuff like that, because there we don't have a way at this moment to portray it the way we need to, and we don't want to misportray it, right?
And that's, I think that's the big, I have no problem having debate and arguing and doing all those things, but I do
Yeah.
think that information, when it comes to like stuff like that, right? You can't just throw it out there, okay, yeah, no, this isn't done, and then not show proof as to why you think it's done, right?
No. I think our debates will turn into a lot more debating whenever we're able to do that. But it'll take some time. So just bear with us, viewers and listeners, because that'll definitely, it's a process for sure. There's a lot of back end that goes into that to do it effectively, right?
Well, yeah, I don't, again, you watch some of these other guys make it look like nothing, and
Yeah.
obviously
Just getting us to this point, we've had a lot of technical difficulties and trying to figure it
it's
out.
been fun.
So every
Like,
time we add a step, we have to add 10 steps on the back end, right? So it might look super easy, but it's not even, I wouldn't even call it hard. It's just a lot of like trial and error, a lot of different efforts, right? Like you just have to make sure you're doing it right. Because the more
well,
you do it wrong, the more people you lose, right?
yeah, but even learning too, right? Like, this micro, people could see where this, what this was set up to. You know what I mean? It's actually hilarious. Like, this is a fly by the seat of our pants. I can't believe we
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy rigged it this far. You know what I mean? It's absolutely
Trial
insane
and error.
to think how far this has come in little time. You know what I mean? Like, it's, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I do think I actually want to build somewhat of a decent stand for this so that it works a little bit better, but it seems to be working. Everything seems to be working. We got video, we got audio, we got recordings. We're on
Look at us.
the social medias. We're moving on up in the world.
It took us 4 episodes to get to where we thought we were going to be on episode 1 in terms
Where
of
we thought,
getting it right, you know? So it only took us 4 weeks. Nice.
well, and again, everything comes with time.
I think the good thing is it
Hard
can
work,
only go up, right? Not
hard
backward.
hard work,
It's so easy. It's
time,
just
hard
time
work,
consuming.
dedication, those make everything better.
We
So
just
you
have to
just
dedicate our time to not being lazy. That's really all it takes, guys. We're just really lazy people.
Can be, sure. I've been. I did make a Facebook page very much. I've been in a bit of a rut. Coming
He made it this
out of it
morning.
now.
This morning.
Yeah, I finally realized I was like, hey, I need to do this still. I totally forgot, and then totally not thought about it until this morning when I was like, hey, tonight's stream, we got to do all this. I was like, oh my goodness, I still didn't do that part, so I better do that. And unfortunately, again, that's learning about myself, and like I need to write things down. I should get a book and have everything written down exactly what's going on. Maybe then I'll remember some, but I would need to get a book, I guess.
Step one. Now he has to remember to get the book, which he needs to write down. Remember to get book, and he doesn't have the book to write that down. It's a circle, the never-ending cycle of life.
Yeah, I have little notebook, and I do have little notebooks, but there's two of them, and they're like random. There's no.
Here's what you do, right? Hear me out. Buy post-it notes. Write what you need to do on those. Put it right on the TV. Then there's no way you could ever avoid it. It's right in front. It's in your way.
No. No. No way.
I actually have not posted on Facebook in quite some time.
I seen you change your display picture on Facebook. Look at
I
us.
did.
Why
look.
are we talking about Facebook?
This is actually something that I was talking about earlier with like learning new things. I've been wanting to work on Photoshop for a long time, but it's just so much, right? I just don't have the effort most of the time.
Picture for Facebook and then comes on here with not even collared shirt.
I'll never live that one down.
No,
There's the mic. Nice, we're starting out good. I think I just learned all the Photoshop stuff last night. I did not know how to do that until 1 a.m.
Wow, so you at 1 a.m. you were learning, and I was and think about that. So you started learning Photoshop, and I made Facebook. We were both productive.
There we go. I get way more productive overnight than I do any other time.
Let's see, yeah, I don't know. My pattern stuff. So
I feel like it's because I have nothing better to do. So I'm like, I might as well be productive. During the day, I have like whatever, people playing games, whatever, right? And then at night, I'm just sitting here wide awake. I'm like, wow, this is boring. I might as well learn something.
No one's awake anymore, and there's no one to play with. No video game to be played. The downfalls of
by myself, which is so much fun.
Midnight.
I know. I really cannot sleep. I got like 4 hours of sleep the other day and still stayed up until like 4 a.m. the next night.
Yep, I do that all the time.
It is such a problem.
Yeah, but I think that the other thing is when you get on that creative role at whatever time it may be, like I don't stop until I'm like, okay, now I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, and that I just go with it now. You know, it's obviously circumstances are a little different right now, but I do think that plays a part in it, right? Like I'm able. I don't have to get up. I'm not worried. Right? If this is when I'm gonna start learning and paying attention, trying to, go on an extravagant hunt on the internet, you know what I mean? Well, let's do it. Why now? I don't know, and why it's gonna start at midnight. But I'll end up doing the same thing tonight, right? I'll end up close this up. I'll end up, you know what I mean? Doing whatever, catching up on all these other things, and then all of a sudden it'll be 3 a.m, and I'll be like, oh, I need to go to bed, and I should probably go to bed. Oh, while I'm doing a couple other things, and then it's 6 a.m, and I'm like, okay, tired now. Like maybe I should sleep, and then you sleep all day again.
And there's the cycle.
We love it. Rinse, cycle, repeat. Game over.
I love it.
Yeah, that's literally it's been gone.
They said the Aussie would be a good guest.
Yes.
A good point of view.
Yeah, well, again, I've spoken to him a couple times incredible some of the things that he's seen and heard and what's going on in Australia. Because as much as everybody's like, it's different, and every country is doing different things. Like the majority of them are doing very similar things and
Yeah.
very, you know what I mean? Like what's happening in Australia, I could easily see that coming to Canada.
I
Easily.
think I don't know a lot about it. I have a friend that I play and talk to a lot that lives in Sydney, and so I ask him sometimes about like whatever's going on. Like he'll tell me about
What's
like
happening?
mandates or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it would be good to like dive into it. If you're ever interested, like I said, shoot us a message. We'll get it worked out.
Well, and that's, I think, obviously, again, here we're gonna have to try and get a new guest spot on our lovely page here. You're gonna have to put
Yeah,
in
it'll
a
be
little bit
switched up a
more
little bit.
here.
We'll have a whole different set for with a guest. It'll look a lot
Yep.
different. Be
We'll put a
interesting.
guest on there, and then yeah, we can throw in our lovely friend from England, our
Oh,
lovely friend from
speaking of the
Australia.
devil,
Yeah, I
he
knew. I
says
knew. He,
evening.
his ears were ringing. He knew we were talking about him, right?
He can sense it.
Yeah. So again, I think that brings some different perspectives, some more interesting perspectives. You get to see a
Hmm.
different view of the world, and that's one thing I'm very interested in. He's given me a lot of trouble for pretending I know what's going on in the U.S. But I am very curious what they got going on there. There's a lot happening there. They got some
Hmm.
crazy stuff going on, and it falls right in line with a couple other things, even though they might not be directly connected yet. But we'll see, where it all lands, right? And again, with
Yeah.
documents and all those things, I think when it comes to that whole conversation, digital ID, the World Economic Forum, right? Like, I think having visuals for that would be the best, because
Hmm.
that whole rabbit hole is wow. Want to
It's a
go down a
lot.
rabbit hole? Go
I
down the
think.
world. Go look up the World Economic. There you go. There's a rabbit hole
See, I
that
feel like there's always a rabbit hole you could find, no matter what organization, what current event. There's always something, right?
yeah, but that one is wild. That one is really really interesting. All these countries are supposed to be different and supposed to be doing different things. Maybe it's a little
Bro,
bit more
you
connected
remember
than
the
we all
furniture
realize.
company that was talking? They were telling, it's like, got around that they were like smuggling, like human trafficking and everything.
What?
They're just like, you didn't know, you definitely heard about this. I don't know if it was maybe last year. I don't know. It could have been 2 months ago with how much time has gone by, it feels. But the Wayfair, I think it was Wayfair,
Okay, yes, I
and
did
they're
hear
talking
about
about human trafficking, yeah. And
that.
their main proof was just the prices on the website were astronomically high.
Yeah. And they coincided with children's names that were.
Yeah, and then it was just crazy. But stuff like that, even right, can come out of nowhere.
Oh, it's for sure. I find them rather interesting, and when it ends up being such a big debate that everybody in the world, or I shouldn't say everybody in the world, the majority in the world paying attention to social media see this, have some thought and or comment on it. You know what I mean? Like it's rather interesting. How does it start? How does it come about? Why does it come about? Why do people think this way? What led them to that, conclusion? How,
See,
you know
I
what I
think
mean?
with how social media is, everyone can have their opinion now more than ever, and in the future more than now, obviously. But I think I don't know, that leads to a lot of good, bad, ugly. I don't know. It can get so bad. Just the attention craving, right? I mean, this is literally how cult leaders are formed. They want to start a cult and they convince a lot of people that their belief is correct, right? And then I go and I want a following, I want fame. So I go on the internet and I say, where Wayfair is smuggling children. And then everyone, whatever, right? You can say anything. And if
But
you can
what
just,
ended up happening with that? Was it debunked? It was it proven that
I,
it's not true?
I mean, I
Did,
guess
did,
it was, I don't know
were,
if it was
were they
proven it
shipping
wasn't
kids?
true,
Like, does
but
anyone know? You know
I
what I
don't.
mean?
It definitely wasn't proven it was true, but I don't know if it was disproven either. It wasn't proven.
Well, see, and I think there's another whole problem, a little bit I see to the internet, right? Like, say they were doing, you know what I mean? And I think it's absolutely disgusting if they were. If they were, though, the internet gets a hold of it, they blast it out there, everybody knows that this is what they're doing, or the cops even have a chance to go bust them. Well, now they've gone and fixed all their issues and do it a different way, and now they're not going to be caught. You know,
That is true. Yeah.
I'd be very interested to know the back end to that story, what ended up happening, how that played out, what legal actions were taken. Like, there's a whole bunch of that I think is left out, and it's funny when it comes to social media because it changes so quickly, and no one's gone like, and I haven't gone to look. I'll be honest, but like, I'd be curious. Has anyone followed through? Has anyone gone dig into that and seen what happened, right? Like, is there
I'm sure people did, right? I mean, I'm sure it just wasn't dropped overnight. I think it just fell out of mainstream media overnight, like everything else does, right?
well, and there's a whole nother interesting about media and what oh, if they would report it in the news, and you've seen some people report it, but not very not as much attention as you would think it would get considering the story that's there. But if you look at Ghislaine Maxwell, right? And if I'm not
Mm,
mistaken, he just got found guilty, and
I
you don't.
haven't kept up with it. I mean, obviously, I'm familiar with the case, but I haven't kept up with it.
So I you don't the media all over and making that as big a deal as I think that should be made about it. So even when it comes to like mainstream media versus social media, like it's very interesting the different attentions and what you're gonna get,
What
right?
David just said is pretty interesting. Said the
What?
problem with attention seekers on social media, especially in America, is they can get real airtime, like on TV, and then people see it on TV and take it as the truth, right? I have a question about that for David, actually. Do you see that happening in the UK or no? Because you say especially in America. I mean, obviously that's where I am, so that's what I see. But do you not see that there? I mean,
See, but
I don't know.
they're that's really interesting in the sense that I do agree because you look at so going back to the stock thing, you look at AMC, CME, and how that ended up being in the news, right? And that was all that Wall Street bets and all how that all worked and went and whatever
Mm-hmm.
the case may be, right? And that ended up getting actual airtime versus something like this Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein thing that really didn't get a whole lot of media attention considering the story that's
I
there.
mean, look at the people that they were accusing.
Well, and that's why I'm so
So,
shocked that mainstream media wasn't all over it versus how social media was all
no,
over
if
it.
anything,
Social
that's how
media,
you should not be surprised because the people, the type of people they're accusing are the people that run these TV networks, people that are friends with the people that run these networks. So obviously, they're not going to air it if that is the case. And I mean, I
so
sound a lot like you right now. Don't get me wrong, but when you look at it, like, I don't see a real win in airing it. If I'm powerful and my other powerful friend, like close powerful friend, is being accused of all these like horrendous things, I'm not gonna air that on my station, right? There's no upside. Even if it's not true, that's still negative for him, right? Because people are gonna take it as truth when they see it.
yeah, but and I think again when it comes to social media and a lot of these networks presenting things, I think that's where they've gone astray. They're presenting it as one side instead of presenting a story and asking questions, right?
I
And
mean,
and I
true journalistic capabilities are far and few between because money still comes into play, right? So you have to
and
look at
that
your target audience, and if your target audience is obviously super conservative, you're not going to run stories that lean super liberal because then your ratings will go down, everyone's just gonna say you're lying anyway. There's no upside financially, right? Like there's journalistic upsides, but whenever you look at a TV network, they're not in it for journalistic integrity, right? They're in it for the money.
But that's why I think the majority of people are moving to social media to get their news. And then are you're labeled as a conspiracy theorist when this news comes up though, because is it true? Is it not true? You know what I mean? Like what is it was Bill Clinton, doing all these things with Jeffrey Epstein, you know what I mean? Like I think those facts still remain unknown. Right?
I don't think I don't know. It's hard to say where it moves. Money moves everything, right? I mean, that's the gist of it. So the higher up the food chain you get, the less real knowledge you're ever going to actually know.
But why though? And I think that's where my biggest issue with the majority of what's going on
Because money is power. So the richer you are, the more power you have to bury, to misconceive
information and hide what's going on and
exactly.
cover up this and do all these things. And so you see it with a case like that. We know that it's being done with vaping. So what other things are they not telling the truth about?
I don't want to say they're lying about everything, but I would say everything in media is pushed by financial gain.
So
maybe not everything, that might be a reach, but I would say most things, right? The majority of things in media are definitely pushed by financial gain.
So and that almost becomes a problem in itself though. Is it actually about helping people or is it about financial gain? And that's one thing again, like I feel me and you are a bit different, right? Like even when it comes to the childhood thing, right? My big motivation has never been it's not my goals. That's not I'd like to get by. I'd like to live comfortably. I'd like to not have to overly worry about money. You know what I mean? I'd like to be okay, but I don't need to be rich. I don't need a whole bunch of money. And I don't think, especially when it comes to health, stuff like that, money should be the driving factor, right? Especially you look at places like Canada, you look at places like England that have like public health, right? Obviously, the US is different. It's a pay to play scheme. And so, it changes the whole tide there. But what in a place like this where it's coming out of our taxes, like we should be about trying to help people regardless of political nonsense, right? Regardless of money and influence.
I think that's easy to say when you're at the bottom of the food chain.
Well,
I mean, no offense, not in like an offensive way, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like it's easy to say when you're ridiculing the people that have all the money and are making the moves, power plays, right? But I feel like a lot of people would, in that situation, especially the people that have what it takes, like charisma wise, to get to that point, right? Or connection wise, to get to that point where they are making the moves and making decisions. They have a different outlook on that, right? So, how do you get the people that are, we'll say, trustworthy in the spots in decision making areas, right? Without the money that comes from connections and greed.
There lies the problem. Because, and you've even said this, right? And not to put you on blast, but like, I would be corrupted by money. I could see you know what I mean? Me doing this or doing that. And so, how do you prevent people, unfortunately, like that ending up in positions of power? I really don't know because it seems like those are the people that end up getting up to the top because they're money hungry, because they're driven, because you know what I mean? That's where their focus is, and they're willing to do things to get ahead, right? Versus the guy who's not. And so,
I don't think there's any. I don't see any way that will be a possibility, honestly. I mean, there's always going to be people that are power hungry, money hungry, right? And how do you filter, right? Or there are going to be people that aren't when they get up there and then they change whenever they are offered 9 digits, right? Like, money and power is a big driving force. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think there is an effective way. I think you're always going to have that concern of the people above me and running things, making decisions, are not looking out for your best interest. That is so far and few between. Because I don't think human nature is to look out for everyone else solely. I think most people, I mean, this sounds terrible, but I think most people are self driven, right?
Well, and I think to a certain extent you have to, you know what I mean? Nobody's looking out for you. No business is looking out for you. You know what I mean? Like you have yourself to look out for. That's it. And when it comes to like even some of those things as a kid, like I think that's a huge factor in a lot of that, right? Like I was out at a young age. I had to do things for myself. I had to figure things out on my own. And so trying to get by, you know what I mean? Like I'm just trying to get by. I'm not trying to cause harm or do anybody bad. Like I'm just trying to make money to live, right? And you know, again, I kind of agree with you. I don't see a way where you're going to get rid of the corruption because if you can easily be bought out, but I guess
I don't even think it's all about money, though, right? It's not always just financial gain. It could not even be the fact that you're gaining. It could be the fear of losing something, and not necessarily. I mean, Dave said something about like sacrificing their comfort for the few who need it, and that makes sense. But it could even be worse than that, to the point of like threats. I mean, I sound a lot like you when I get into this, but I mean, honestly, it was very easy to assume that power hungry people can obviously make your life hell, right? So if they can make our lives hell, they can make each other's lives hell. So if you have a big group of powerful people, right, and then one person wants to be better, do better, what does that future look like for them? Not necessarily financial or power wise, but like everything, right? I mean, you can cripple people if you have money and power.
Well, and you look, unfortunately, at what's going on right now, and none of these politicians are living any of the issues that they've pushed on people. The regular people that are being affected and losing jobs and losing income and not being able to go places and not being able to gather with family or being excluded or whatever the case may be, right? Like politicians aren't having a problem. You don't see
That is
them
true.
dealing,
And this plays
right?
a big role in lower areas too. It's not just the most powerful, the most wealthy. I mean, you look at like your job, right? Not your specific, but just a job, right? Like a corporate job. There are politics whenever you get up to higher positions in jobs, just as much as there is in the government, right?
Yes.
For a more relatable example, I mean, if your boss, you don't want to go in and start disagreeing with your boss because what does he do? He fires you, right? Or even your coworkers, you don't want to be the one that's hated by all your coworkers in a staff meeting, right? Because then what happens? They start working against you, not even, or just not with you, right? And it puts a strain on your life and on others who depend on you, vice versa, whatever, right? And that's the same thing, just at a grander scale.
Well, and that's exactly it. And so when people are like, why not trust blindly? Well, here's a bunch of reasons. Here's a bunch of examples, and you've clearly stated why and how easily it can be manipulated and taken advantage of, right? So,
But see, my problem is, I I'm trying to figure out a word this without contradicting myself too much from past episodes or this conversation. It's a touchy subject. I would say there is a point where you where you do have to trust blindly with enough backing. Not, I guess, not necessarily blinded. You have to trust with faded vision, right? It's not. I mean, like you said, it's not black and white. There is a gray area, but you have to commit to something in order to move forward in any section of your life.
Yeah, but I again, in life, you grow up and you live and you learn, and all these things end up happening. And I think screw me once, shame on you. Screw me twice, shame on me. Screw me 3 times, like I'm a fool.
I think my personal view especially lately with all this information coming out. I just don't care that much, right? I have things I want to accomplish in my life, and I have goals, whatever, just things I want to do day to day that I do not have the energy mentally to dive in like you do, or like a lot of people, even more than you, right? And like try to find all this information. Like at this point, I just take it at the value of the person that I feel I can trust the most, because I know I don't have that knowledge, right? I mean, like we said, what, last week or 2 weeks ago, I don't have the knowledge, so I'm in no place to make a decision without either studying everything, doing all this, and at some point you just have to say it's just not worth it, right? And that's where I'm at with most issues nowadays. Like I stay informed enough from what I find, but I will very rarely like dive into something because I just don't have the mental. It drains me so much to then at the end of that still be like, I still don't know because there's so much irrelevant information mixed in.
I think when it comes to situations like that though, and it does become mental, it does take a lot out of you. A lot of time and effort is put into reading, trying to trying to figure out. But to me, the biggest problem lies with questions, right? So I ask questions, I read this, I have this question, I have this thought, or whatever the case, and no one wants to answer. And like from and I get what you're saying, right? Those people in positions of power have, certain things that they can do, and you can't go just say and do whatever you want. But I do think they should be able to answer simple questions, right? I don't think it should be that hard, right?
David says, in addition, even if you had all the info and could understand it, what could you possibly do about it? Talking about what I was saying before, and we've talked about this in depth. Me and him, like me and Anthony, have talked about this in depth before, hours, before the podcast years ago, right? About the vape industry, and I said the same thing. Like, at the end of the day, I don't feel like I can accomplish anything more because if I dive in and get all the information, that's what it boils down to. I feel like my life will be roughly the same, minus the hundreds of hours and mental drain I put myself through, right, to acquire this information or whatever. I mean, what am I going to do with it, right? What's the end goal? If I don't have an end goal, what's the point of starting?
Yeah, but see, and I think that was one of my things. I didn't really have a goal. I didn't really know what I was doing. And when I think the biggest thing when it comes to something like that is trying to get the word out and trying to inform people as to what's actually going on. And so what can you do? You can share your stories and share your experience, share what's happened, right? Share what you know, how that's affected you.
And see, it might be a selfish point of view from me, but I almost just don't care enough. Like, I don't think my reach, the amount of effort I know I plan on putting in, is not like I don't have the reach. I don't have the energy to grow that reach to the point of real change.
Yeah, but and I still don't think I do.
Have the energy or have the ability?
Have the reach, have the capabilities, have the knowledge, have the power, have the wherewithal, have any of that to change anything. I really don't think I do. I'm not that guy. But all I can do is continue, like I said, to share my story, share my experiences, and people will do with it what they will. It's been way more than I asked for, right? Like I have people that say, "Yo, you should do this. You should do a podcast. You should do more videos, right? We want to send you things to do more videos with, and that to me is still insane and still crazy that it's even come as far as it has.
Mm-hmm.
Why would
Tammy
I
said
stop?
something. My bad. Tammy said something pretty true. I agree with this. But at least you use the knowledge to live how you feel is right by you. They're also having a conversation, but that applies directly to what we're talking about. I think it is individual choice, right? Like if you feel like that is how you want to live, then all power to you, right? But I just feel personally, I just can't be bothered. Like I said, it might be super selfish, and that is what it is. But my mental strains are enough, right? I don't need to add all this to it. because I know myself, right? But if you feel like you are, I guess, adding to society with what you are doing, then I think that is a good decision.
Yeah, but and I think that's exactly what it boils down to. Individual choice. If an individual wants to use a flavored vaping product over smoking cigarettes, right, which we know is going to kill them, I don't see a problem with that. If someone doesn't want to wear a mask and ends up getting COVID, what does it matter to you? What do you really care what they're doing?
David says, I want to know where that line is for you and the two boys on screen. So that is a good point. I think mine and your lines obviously differ very much. And I'm sure with Timmy. I think it depends on what it is. And I
Lines
guess the
for what?
passion you have behind it, right? I mean, I don't know. That's, yeah. Can you elaborate a bit, David? Like, I guess specify where you want to know or what you want to know where the line is. Because it does vary a lot for me. I mean, I am selfless enough to where I will tell people, like with vaping, where I will educate people and help. Like people quit smoking and stuff. But I'm not enough.
That you can control and just have to make the best of what you've got. And so again, if they go and ban it, what can I really do? There's really not much I can do except continue to tell people that hey, this worked for a lot of others. Hey, this worked for me. Hey, here's how to make other flavors. Here's how you too could quit smoking cigarettes.
He said the pandemic
Right?
is the big one.
Well, and to me, again, when I'm forced to wear a mask that I know is ineffective against an airborne virus, everywhere I go, I have a problem. Why am I being forced to wear something that I know is not effective? And okay, let's even be smart about this. Even if I were to wear a clean, brand new one, and they were to provide them at the entrance to every store, they would need to provide them at the exits to or entrances to every bathroom. Out of the bathroom, you need a new one, right? You would like. There's so much more to this that I again knowing what I know from working in a hospital and how masks work and how PPE works, and how a disposable one-time use product is exactly that, right?
I think
You
he
know,
means more generalized. Where do you draw the line in terms of knowledge and ability to change either minds or policy? Is the way I'm reading it.
yeah, but
Like with vaping, I said or with anything, I will do. I don't know. It's such a tough question. It's hard to articulate, right? I think, like I said, I will take at face value people that I deem to be knowledgeable and trustworthy enough to take at face value. And I'll take that information and I will live accordingly what I think is best for myself to start, and then secondly, the people around me. I
oh, you audio cut out.
Yeah, I think there's an internet connect. There's a connection issue through Discord, just a little bit.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Of
I
course,
think
some.
where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? Sacrificing what you have to prove that you're right.
Yeah,
Is
but
it losing
I'm
your
not trying to prove.
friends? Is that still acceptable? Losing your income in your house, losing everything and falling into homelessness and poverty? I
So
think I just don't care. Like I
yeah,
mean,
but
like I said, I'm very
I
selfish in that aspect. I just
yeah, but I'm not trying to prove I'm right. Like I think there's a different thing. I'm not trying to prove I'm right. I hope I'm wrong.
But do you think
I
you're
hope
right?
about what though? Like there's so many different aspects to this that, some things I definitely feel I'm right. Other things I'm really not sure if I'm right. And I hope I'm wrong. Right? So it kind of depends on where and what specifically you're talking about. But I'll tell you, there's things that I'm willing to do and there's things I'm not willing to do, and I was willing to lose my job over certain things. I'm not willing to just abide by stupid rules because people say you need to follow these rules. I'm not willing to do that. You can't prove
But
to
why?
me
That's I guess the main why though. Why is that worth it just to like stand on that hill? I don't like wearing a shirt. I don't wear a shirt when I'm at home.
Forced to do anything they don't want to do. No one should be forced to do anything they don't want to do.
But you are on a day to day, and you abide by it. And you just have to deal with it in order to be a part of society. You can't go 150 down the interstate, right? I love to speed. I hate going 70 miles an hour on the interstate. I can easily go 100 plus and be perfectly safe in my mind. I don't see I'm putting myself or others at risk, right? Because the way I'm driving, I'm not driving super recklessly. I'm not cutting in and out of traffic. I feel what I'm doing is fine. The government and society tells me I'm wrong, and I have to abide by that or face consequences. And because I'm not willing to go to jail all the time, I do not constantly go 110 miles an hour. I sit at my house shirtless all the time. I'm literally never wearing a shirt at my house other than on this podcast and when I leave, whatever, right? But I don't walk into a Walmart shirtless because they tell me, yeah, you can't do that, bud. And I'm not going to fight it, right? I'm not going to go find a place like a gas station that will let me go in. Like, I abide by stuff I don't necessarily agree with because it's not worth the battle, right?
Why couldn't you go create a store that you don't have to wear a shirt in?
No, I could, but it's not worth it. That's my point. That's where my line is. It's not worth the battle because that's so much effort when I can just put on a shirt. And it's the same with your job. Like, is it worth losing your entire income because you have to wear something on your face? Like, what's the point?
Yes.
But why?
Medical. You have a right to make your own medical decision and do what you feel is right for you. It's your choice.
But they also have the right to make it hell on you, right? But why is that? What? That's what I guess the ultimate question is like, how far are you willing to go to die on the hill? Like, will you die on that hill?
Oh, for sure.
See, that's my thing. Like, I don't. I wear a mask in places that I'm required to wear a mask. I flew pretty recently. I had to wear a mask, right? Am I going to go and raise hell at an associate or I don't want to wear this mask, blah, blah. Why is this a thing? I don't care, right? It's not worth it to me. Like, my mental energy is not there enough to go argue with people about something so minuscule as wearing a mask. And even if it doesn't prevent COVID, that aside, it has to be somewhat beneficial. Even if it is 0.0001%, something over my mouth is better than nothing over my mouth in general, right? Like, it just is what it is. I understand that it can attract other things. Let's say I touch my mask, I'm in an area that has high germs, then I bring that mask home, it gets on other stuff. That's why you change masks. I get the logic behind that. But to me, it's just not worth the fight. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Put your hand over your mouth and nose and try and breathe for me for a second.
I don't know if you can hear that. Breathing. What about it?
A little bit harder.
I mean, yeah, it's slightly okay. It's slightly different, but like
throwing that out there.
Okay, what about doctors that don't want to wear masks during surgery? What's the problem with that? Are you gonna fight that? You expect surgeons that don't feel like wearing masks to quit their jobs because that's not a good thing. Because they don't like the way they breathe with it on. Because that's the example you just gave me.
Studies in regards to masks.
I'm talking about a mask.
Get surgeons to stop wearing masks, and they wouldn't.
What, surgeons wouldn't stop?
They told them you don't need to wear them; they're useless. The surgeon said we still want to wear them.
Okay, why?
Because they had been wearing them for so long now that's part of the gig when you go in.
I doubt that every surgeon was like, yeah, no, I'm just used to it. That's why. He said, so you give up your actual life because you're scared of medicine that might harm your life. There's no way that's true, like at all. I'm skipping a lot. I'm sorry, I can't keep up too much. So I might be. I don't want to be misinforming what you're saying. So if I'm
willing to not participate in society, I'm willing to lose my job. I'm willing to do everything to not take a medication that hasn't been proven safe and effective. Yes, definitely that guy. Maybe in 5 or 10 years, when the safety and efficacy trials are done and completed, I can understand people, and I can understand, having people barred from society who don't participate.
if it's proven safe and
Tammy said
effective.
the surgeon wearing mask thing is true. So I mean, I'll take
or
that.
whatever it is, right? It's not. It doesn't seem to be effective, right? People are dying who've gotten the shot. It doesn't seem to be safe. So
he said, "Do you prove all the weed you smoke is safe and effective before you smoke?" That could actually be applied to anything. We won't limit that to just weed because that is very specific. Well, I mean, you can apply it to food, anything though, right? I mean, I'm not saying everything is safe. That is not even close to what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's not worth it, right? It's not worth the risk, or it's not the risk. It's not worth the difference in my life, whether I'm wearing this mask or not wearing this mask, eating that food, not eating that food. Like I said before, I haven't gotten the vaccine yet because I don't see a personal need for it. Because yeah, they say, oh, it might help you if you get COVID. I had COVID, whatever. My personal experience, that's what I'm going off of, right? I could be 100% wrong. I probably am wrong, really, according to most science. But it is what it is. I just don't care. But when it comes to when I want to travel, right? I even talked about going to Canada soon. I will get the vaccine probably soon because it's not worth sitting where I'm at and not doing the things I love to do just to fight it. Like, I would rather risk my life than do that. Even if the vaccine said it is a 10% chance it will kill you, right? That is a crazy high number. That would cripple the vaccine industry and media push, right? Whatever. If 10% of it said it will kill you, 100 or 10% of the people that take this vaccine will die, I'd still take it. That risk is worth it to me to do just what I really want to do. Yes.
Just to travel.
100%, yes. Because traveling is what I want to do in my life. Now, obviously, it's not the same with everything. If they came out and said beef is 10% likely to kill you, I'd stop eating beef because the upside and the downsides, the risk management is not there for me, right? The satisfaction I get from eating beef is not a life I care to live, right?
And I guess,
but there are definitely certain things,
and that goes back to individual choice. You should be allowed to make that choice.
You are allowed to make the choice, but you have to also you have to deal with the consequences too, right? Like, you can't shame society for making those choices also. If you're making your choice and then you shame society for making their choice.
I think a lot of society doesn't realize the choices that I think a lot of people aren't very informed about a lot of the choices they're making and are so scared that they don't know what to do other than to follow what they're doing. And it's not meant to be mean.
I think it's just,
like, again, I was terrified. I'll full out admit it, right? You're going to die. There's a new virus. Everybody's going to die. The whole world is going to die. So, yeah, that's fucking scary. You know what I mean? And excuse my language, but there it is. Like, that's scary, right?
He said you should be allowed to make that choice unless it's not just your health you're risking, which is what the general consensus believes, that that your decision directly affects others.
Yeah, and that's a bold-faced lie.
See, I don't know. That's tough. Yeah. That is tough for me. I think,
and that's where the things get way out of hand, right?
I don't completely agree with that decision or with that sentence.
Right, and what I believe are being trampled on to make other people believe they feel safe.
I think I used the speeding example earlier. I would say the general consensus,
because there's a complete difference.
No, not really, right? Not really. I mean, the general consensus is if that you go 100 miles an hour on the interstate all the time, you're going to cause an accident. You're going to kill families and kids, right? I don't believe that. I go 100 all the time. Whatever. Not all the time, but plenty of times. I've went 100 and not killed anyone. I feel perfectly capable of going 100, but the general consensus would tell me that is not true and that you will kill someone. The chance is so high. And so I understand your point 100%, but at the same time, I don't know. It just varies so much from thing to thing. Not everyone can drive 100 safely. It's not about what you feel capable of. It's about catering to the most vulnerable. So everyone has to be limited by what society can handle.
And I just agree with that.
I mean, I think people should be limited to further society. I've said that plenty of times. So I do think, even with speed limits.
Yeah, but you're not.
I don't agree that the speed limit should go.
Everybody could only do the same thing, and everybody was given only the same choice and could only do the same thing. Our society would be at a standstill. We would have no innovation. We would have no nothing.
What you're saying is,
people do things differently.
What you're saying is relevant to laws too, though. You're saying we shouldn't have laws because people don't have the choice. Like,
really, some people are good at some things, some people are not. Right? Very different. You need people doing different things. Right? And that individual choice needs to be part of that. You need to have the right to choose to do what you want to do. Right? I watched the Joe Rogan and people, whatever, and only because I was like, yo, maybe he'll know about NFTs.
But you don't have the right to do anything you want to do. That's unrealistic.
I never.
Where you draw the line to where you think you should have the right, and where is that line, right? Why do you get to draw that line?
Why
when it's already been drawn thousands of times
for you to feel better?
But it's not just about that. It's about anything.
So now I have to wear a pink shirt to make you feel better?
You have to wear pants. You have to wear clothes when you go out in public. That's public nudity. Why is that?
You know, that's a really interesting one, and one I probably have a vastly different opinion than the majority, right? I don't understand why nudity is such a bad thing, right? And so why it's so taboo, right? Like,
I don't think it's. See, this is a perfect example. Then I agree. I don't think nudity is as taboo as it's portrayed, but I don't think that you should be able to walk around naked all the time because it puts other people at a risk that they shouldn't have to go. Because you have people that will act badly in those circumstances. You'll have people that if you're allowed to be naked all the time, right? Then you'll have
everybody was naked all the time. You would still have bad people and you would still have good people. It wouldn't make any difference.
But think about how pedophiles act, how sex offenders. You have an entire sex offender registry, right? Like,
it would be no different. And
no, that's ridiculous. That is ludicrous that you're telling me sex offenders would not be more prevalent in a society where if right now you flip the switch and said everyone's to be naked all the time, clothes are not enforced in public. Public nudity is no longer a crime. You're telling me that sex offenders would not rise. That's insane. I
personally think sexual desire wouldn't be as great as it is.
Maybe if you started this 1,000 years ago, but you're too late now. It's too late for that.
There becomes the difference. If everybody is not wearing clothes and everybody's seeing things all the time, it wouldn't be as big a deal as when they finally do take their clothes off. It wouldn't be that shock. You wouldn't have that, oh my God, right? It wouldn't be there. It would be normal everyday life and everybody would be naked and it would be normal. Go to somewhere where people don't have access to clothes, right? What they wear is normal. It's not out of the ordinary.
No, I know
right?
That. But that's what's best for society right now. So that is a law that is enforced right now.
Yeah, but I don't think it. Again, if you could actually prove that it was better for society, maybe.
You have people taking their penis out now with the society, right? You have people doing crazy acts in public right now, even with that law and risking it. So if people could do that without risk, you don't think there's a huge number of sex offenders that are way more careful with what they do or how they do it, or they're more conserved because of that law and because of the high chance of them getting arrested if they go into a kid's park and whip their penis out? That's insane, right? Like,
okay, yeah, but you're judging this off of, again, what we know in today's society. If everybody was naked, and again,
that's what I'm saying right now, with the general consensus of science, like science as of society or as a world right now science is telling you that you put other people at risk.
By everybody being naked.
No, by the mask. Not wearing your mask, not getting vaccinated, going out, being in close quarters, whatever, right? Spreading disease, whatever it is.
Sure.
There's a lot of comments. I hope you're reading these as well.
I was reading some of them, and like again, the meningitis is kind of an interesting point, and I can relate because again, but again, knowing what I know from my work within the hospital, right? Like they moved patients, right? Infected to long-term care homes. So you knew they had COVID, or you didn't even know for sure, and you still sent them anyway.
What do you think the best way to handle it is?
Well, and
the
again,
COVID outbreak. If you could redo a law, whatever, because everything you've said have just been about freedom and rights and all this, right? Like you have the ability to express.
What you would have done from the beginning is you would have let. And again, you'll never know what the real numbers would have been had we just left well enough alone. Had we not locked down, had we not shut down travel, we'll never know. But I would be very curious at what the outcomes would be if you didn't do lockdowns, you didn't wear masks, right? And you focused on treatment. When someone gets a positive test, right? Again, if tests are even accurate, right? Like there would be my first thing. Let's get accurate tests that accurately, decipher between the flu and COVID, and actually, that you are positive with COVID. We're for sure 100% it is COVID, and we're like 99.9% accurate, not a 50, not a 60. You know what I mean? Like a 99.9% accurate. And then you would start to focus on treatment, right? Okay, this person has COVID. This is where they're at in regards to how this disease works, how it ends up affecting people, right? Here's what we can do to try and prevent it from getting worse. Here's what we can do to prevent them from ending up on a ventilator. Here's what we can do to prevent them from even ending up in the hospital.
But what do you do about preventable measures, not reactionary?
What?
What do you do about preventable measures, not reactionary? Because even with the preventable measures that were put in place, mandates, travel restrictions, all this, there were hospitals that were already over flooded, all this, right? Now, whether that be every single person had 100% shot or whatever, but there were plenty of places that couldn't handle their populations getting that high of a rate.
Are full all the time. Prior to COVID, we had hallway medicine all the time. That's not a brand new.
Okay, so then you introduce a new sickness, right? So then you have more people coming in. So the hospitals, you just said, are already full. So let's say you're at 90% capacity on a regular pre-COVID day. Okay, fine, whatever. 80, 90, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And then you have people coming in, right? And they were already doing that with preventable measures. So you think the preventable measures made more people sick? I don't understand.
Yeah, I do.
You think people not traveling and people wearing masks made COVID a higher instance, more common? More people got COVID because of mandates and travel restrictions and all the way they handled it.
I do not know. I think there was more death and secondary outcome to those measures than COVID.
Why? I don't understand. Because I'm not comprehending what you're saying.
If you look at one province here, just BC, there was more overdose deaths than there was deaths from COVID. Just overdose.
For what? I don't understand.
Overdose. That's not
just that year. Did that stat shoot up that suddenly throughout that 1 year of COVID?
Yes.
So COVID became, or overdose became the most.
Including people that were denied surgery, that didn't get surgery, right? All the other starvation and whatever else happened because people didn't have access to programs that they did. They didn't have, all the other things that were available prior to COVID that had to close down because COVID was so bad, right? That's just overdose. Nothing
So
else.
overdose deaths were the number one cause of death in Ontario last year.
BC.
Okay.
I don't know if it was the number one cause of death, but there was more overdose deaths than there were deaths from COVID. More people died from OD than they did from COVID. BC, one province. That's one.
And that number was substantially higher, like drastically higher than it was years prior in BC.
I don't know.
Because that's a very relevant number you'd have to look at, is also past years of overdose deaths in BC. Because if that number is on par or even slightly larger, then it's not relevant to what you're saying. What? What's this face?
Did you really just said that?
What? I'm pretty sure I stand behind what I just said.
More people, okay. So let's say in the years prior, more people did die. Even more died of overdoses than the year COVID happened, and more people died of overdose than COVID.
Okay.
So obviously, there's a pandemic of overdosing drugs.
I agree. That makes sense.
So then maybe we should focus on that instead of,
No, but it's not one or the other. That's not what it's not relevant to what I'm saying. Well, I'm talking about just COVID, and I'm talking about if you think mandates, travel restrictions, and all of this played a part in making it go down or up. How many people OD'd if it's not directly related to what that sentence is not relevant at all.
I would love to know what the numbers would have been had there been no mandates, no restrictions, no masks, no nothing. I would love to know would it be worse?
At the very, very best, like best case scenario, it would be the very same. Because there's no way it could be better with people traveling more frequently. That doesn't make any sense at all. There's nothing at all that you could point to that would say that. So at your very, very best outcome, it was the very same. COVID case-wise. Because it's an impossibility. You can't tell me a single way that traveling more is going to decrease disease. That does not make any sense.
So again, if you were to do measures properly, actually isolate the if you had an accurate test for COVID and can accurately isolate people who are actually testing positive for COVID, right? It would be a lot different, and people would be allowed to travel freely.
How do you get accurate testing, and how do you maintain it though, without restrictions?
There becomes a whole problem.
And that's a problem that I feel like they tried to solve. I'm not saying they did it in the best way possible, right? Wow. But at the end of the day, they had to make a decision, and restricting travel, making mandates, all this, right, was an attempt versus nothing. And you can't just be reactive. You have to be somewhat preemptive.
Yeah, but you would do the measures that you had in place for all the other. We had SARS up here. I don't know.
So you're telling me restrict travel on people that have COVID, but don't restrict it for everyone, because then some people don't have it and their freedoms are restricted. That's what essentially you're saying, right? And that makes sense at face value, but there's no way to implement that effectively. So at that point, what do you do? Do you say, okay, everyone's free to travel, or do you say, okay, we should limit this and try to be
if you can stop and listen for a sec. So normally, right, if you're symptomatic enough to go get tested, there's obviously not. So you would easily be able to tell, right? And I think it would also justify people getting a test if all of a sudden there was consequences of you testing positive. You wouldn't have people willy-nilly going and doing a whole bunch of tests for no reason. But at the same time, people are doing it because they're terrified. Oh no!
But you would have people testing to be able to. Right? You're just taking people's words at the border? I don't understand what you're getting at. Only symptomatic people, only people that say, "Oh, I'm not sick," you let them in? That doesn't make any sense. You think people that are traveling and want to travel are going to say, I'm not symptomatic.
I'll try and explain this one more time. You would focus on testing, accurate testing from the beginning, right? So you would know people coming in or out are positive, correct?
So you test everyone. Everyone coming in or out, you test them. I don't understand how you effectively get to what you're saying. Unless you test everyone that comes in or out. But then you don't have enough tests. Because then everyone is going to get tested. That's where your problem is. If you can't produce accurate testing, how do you get accurate testing to your standard and also mass produce it? Because you have so many people that you're requiring to take it. That doesn't make any sense. There's no solution that would be your ideal solution. Your solution is another impossibility.
Yeah, but and again, in reality, like I wouldn't test.
You wouldn't what? I'm sorry, you cut out.
Thrown at me very quickly, and you're trying to ask me to.
You've looked through a lot.
Global pandemic right now on the spot.
No, not solve it. I'm saying if you have done all this research and you're anti what they did, but you still don't have a single idea what would be a better option, then what right do you have to say that their option sucks and that is the worst option and that everyone should disregard it?
So again, normally when people are sick, they end up in the hospital, right?
Okay, I can agree to that. People go to the doctor when they're sick. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, and then normally you would treat them upon that point.
Okay. Yeah.
That's literally, I don't understand what else to be done.
So you see an influx of people coming in that are sick because that's obviously how it started. People were coming in sick. They didn't know what it was. They misdiagnosed it because they didn't know what it was. Okay. Then you find out what it is, right? And you say, okay, we haven't seen this before. This is new. And it's obviously bad because a lot of people are getting sick very quickly, right? People are dying. People are getting very sick, et cetera, et cetera. And it's something we don't have a cure for and we haven't seen before. So at that point,
looking for a cure.
They did that, right? But at the same time, you also have to take preemptive, preventative measures so that everyone doesn't die before that can be accomplished. Because obviously, it can't be accomplished at a snap of a finger. So at that point, you have to make decisions.
I think that's where the biggest difference is, right? Like, majority weren't dying.
But it's not about the majority. What is it, over 50%? If it's over 50%, we shut the country down. Anything less than that, it's not the majority, whatever. We'll figure it out as the time comes. People need their freedoms. That's a crazy phrase to use, majority. It was bad enough to where people were dying, and it's something new.
They didn't run out of ventilators or beds. Or maybe they did in the UK, but I don't think they did here. Or I know they didn't here. They had ventilators and beds. It was hilarious. I had one lady approach me and try and tell me the hospital was full. Well, I was in the hospital, and I was like, I don't know if you've been upstairs or not, or seen like the 12 empty there in critical care, but yeah.
See, I'm not even speaking on any of that. I mean, I've heard plenty of this on news, whatever. I don't know it firsthand. You know more about what the hospital looked like firsthand. I'm speaking from a policy standpoint. What do you do? I mean, there's no other option when you think about it. You risk everyone getting sick, and then you scream at the government because more people got sick.
You treat the sick people that are sick. I know, like, again, I'm not sure why that's really that hard to understand.
This is why you have to get vaccinations to go to certain countries. You have to get certain like yellow fever vaccination to go to Vietnam, whatever it is, right? You have to prove that you have these. Why do you think that is? So it doesn't spread. When you come back or when you go to certain other countries from these countries, you have to prove that you're not bringing in these things. It's the same thing. It's things that we know.
That's not true.
What do you mean? You're telling me you don't have to have any vaccination to go to any? That's definitely true. There are countries that you have to have vaccination status to go to. Not COVID vaccination, but
some of them, yes, certain vaccines go to. But if I go to that country and come back, they don't test me when I'm at.
I'm saying if you're living in that country, not coming back to your own country. I'm saying if you live there and you're traveling here, then you have to prove that you don't have this sickness or you're vaccinated. If I go there, I have to prove that I'm vaccinated. Stuff like that, right? Health reasons, vaccinations, tests, whatever, have to be done to go into certain places of the world. Why are you confused about this? That's common knowledge, I thought.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to understand where you're going with this, but yeah.
Well, you don't need to understand. Yeah, you're confused too early. What I'm saying is just truth, right? So you take that as truth, right? So we're already trying to deter sickness. from the countries, right? You don't want sick people coming into your country. You don't want certain sicknesses in your country, so you require a vaccination
before they go into your country. Yes.
Okay, so how is that any different than shutting down the travel here? Because the alternative would be to make sure they're not sick, which would require accurate testing on a mass scale, which was not possible, right? If you allow travel along with people that are already getting tested, it already wasn't possible, right? So it definitely wouldn't be possible if you forced it on every travel. So that's option A. You can't do that, right? You can agree on that. You can't mass produce a 99.9% accurate test. So if you can't do that, what do? Other than restrict the travel until you figure it out.
You use an ineffective test to lock down people that aren't even sick, right? Shut them down.
You do the best you can. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
You have to do something. You can't sit around and do nothing while people are getting sick with a new virus that just came out.
Let's continue to use an ineffective test to prevent people from going to work, to prevent people from traveling, to prevent people from living, to prevent people from going anywhere, right? Prevent them from...
Your solution is to get an accurate test, but if that's not a possibility, you can't just spoof. Okay, perfect. Perfect effective test. You can't do that. It's not a possibility. Your solution is impossible. At this point, you're just bickering. There's no solution. The thing you're saying they should have done is literally impossible. Oh, we should have just got rid of it. We should have just not gotten COVID. Oh, that's a solution, right, Anthony?
Treat the sick people is not a solution.
To stop the spread. They were treating sick people. They weren't treating non-sick people. That's not the debate.
Like, did I miss something here? Did the spread stop through any of these measures?
It probably slowed down. That's the best they can get to. No, of course it didn't stop. Of course it's not going to stop. I couldn't tell you. There's no science behind that.
There's my point. Exactly. Useless measures that we don't even know that if they were effective.
The lack of statistics is not proof for your statistic. That doesn't make any sense. You can't blame the lack of something that didn't happen.
So why did we implement them?
Because common scientific knowledge tells you that if less people are traveling, diseases spread less quickly. That is common sense. If people are getting on planes every day, then an airborne sickness is not going to travel as much.
Sure, if that's the best. Do a bunch of things and so maybe travel bans was okay. Like, you know what I mean? Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an epidemiologist.
Okay, but it's not about the doctor. It's about you bashing what they did and how you feel about it infracting your freedoms, right? But at the end of the day, you can't provide any other option.
Did it work?
You can't say it didn't work. You're not dead. Is that can be my proof? You didn't die of COVID yet. That's my proof. There you go. That's the same level of proof you're giving me. The fact that you are not laying in a casket 6 feet under the ground right now is proof that it worked. Is that good? That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? And that's just as ridiculous as what you're telling me. Oh, it didn't work because people still got COVID. No.
I was able to work in the hospital for the first, year and a half during this pandemic with inadequate PPE for an airborne virus.
No, it's because they shut down travel. Foreigners came in. If there was lots of travel, you'd be dead. That's my logic. See how ridiculous that sounds to you.
Right? But now, because we implemented some silly measures, now all of a sudden I'm not okay to be there.
If you don't know the economics and you're not a doctor, what are you criticizing? I don't understand. You're criticizing what they did. You're bashing the people that do it and what was happening and what happened, what they did. But you can't give a single better choice.
Like, I think that's the other interesting thing I find rather amusing. Like, you guys get so bent out of shape about my opinion about it, right? And again, we're gonna not agree on the majority of this for different reasons, right? I don't think the majority of it helped. I don't think the majority of it worked, right? We have no proof that it was working. So
just read that comment he just said.
So
not the little lady.
No, and I think that's the absurdness that we've perpetuated with this, right? Like, and obviously it becomes a bit different. If you look
If
at
people
something
came
like
to you and they said, "I love to smoke and smoking is healthy," and all these are fake, and I'm going to smoke, you would try to get them to stop smoking, correct? You've gotten people that are adamant
no,
about
no, no, no,
continuing to
no, no,
smoke
no,
to
no,
stop smoking.
no, no,
And I know
no.
you've ran into
If you want
smoke.
to smoke
Vaping is
cigarettes, smoke
unhealthy too.
cigarettes. No, no. If you want to smoke cigarettes, smoke cigarettes. I don't care. Smoke cigarettes. Don't. That's not. Here's if you want to quit smoking, here's an option that can help you quit smoking.
You think you should
Here's the
smoke
good
cigarettes around
opportunity.
kids? You think you should, in a car, if you're in a car with a child, do you think you should be smoking a cigarette? It's your right to smoke a cigarette, but you're putting the child in harm's way, right? Secondhand smoke is science, right? You know of it. It's a risk. You're putting the kid at risk. Am I wrong?
I would love to see some studies done today on second.
Are you near? There's no way you're about to tell me secondhand smoke isn't real. I'm literally gonna have a stroke live on camera. I will literally kill over if you tell me secondhand smoke is okay and that smoking in the car with a child is permissible because it's your freedoms. Freedoms. That is so crazy, bro. That's ridiculous. You know that that's
you
so
blow
dumb.
my words way out of proportion.
I'm trying to get you to say what you mean.
What did I say versus what you said? Right?
It's relevant.
I said, no. I said I would like to see studies done with today's technology on secondhand smoke.
But why? The studies have been done. You want to redo the studies?
Oh, you want kids to smoke in a car and fucking that's okay?
Because you're putting it like it's irrelevant.
I'm telling you. I would
okay,
like
answer the question. Yes or no? Do you think it's okay to smoke in a car with a child with the windows up? It is your freedom to do so. Is that right? Yes or no? Should you be permitted? Not even is it right. Should you be allowed to smoke in the car with a child? Yes or no? Simple. Yes or no?
I don't see why not.
Because you're putting kids at risk. You're putting other people at risk with your decisions. That's bad for society. If we erase every law that protects others in society, it will crumble. Everyone will be dead.
Yeah.
You're telling me it's okay because it's your freedom, but you're taking away someone's choice. That's the point. That's what everyone's trying to get to.
I think very differently, right?
What do you mean you think differently?
A seatbelt is a perfect example. So they went and implemented that everybody wears seatbelt. Seatbelt is only 50% effective. 50.
That's not the same thing at all. That's not relevant at all. You're not putting others at risk because of your lack to wear a seatbelt. Not even close to the same thing.
So how am I putting people at risk by not wearing a mask?
I'm saying the consensus in the scientific community around the world tells you that wearing a mask, getting vaccinated, all this puts others at less of a risk.
That's
just like the scientific community consensus says that smoking in the car with your child is not a good thing because it puts them at risk.
Scientific community's consensus. Okay. Because there's lots of people in science that disagree.
Okay, there's lots of people in science that disagree with everything, but the general consensus, it is not a 50-50 split on my side or your side. That's just not true, right? You have 10%, right? If that. And the side I'm speaking on has, we'll say 90, right? So it is the general consensus. You used the word majority earlier. Let's use it now. The majority of the scientific community says that when the problem with COVID is you put others at risk. And you just told me that you should be allowed to put a child at risk. Your own words. I don't see why not. The why not you should see is because you're taking away the child's rights to choose whether or not they're around smoke. You're forcing it on them, right? So there are certain rights. There are I think it's illegal in every state here, at least, that you cannot smoke in the car with your child, windows up, like you could in the 60s, because they found that obviously it is better for society if you don't.
Whoa. You never said if the window was up.
I did. I will clip this 1,000 times. Someone come into this chat. I definitely did.
Okay, so if all the windows are up and the kid is only
You cut out. I can't hear what you're saying.
Oh, if a kid is locked in the car and no windows are down, fucking guy is just smoking like crazy. No, I do not.
Okay, so what level of secondhand smoke do you permit? Where do you draw the freedom line?
The guy has his window open, smoking a cigarette. Kid is in the back seat, and that's his car and his kid. I don't understand why that's a problem with you. Why do you care what that guy is doing?
It's not just me specifically. It is better for society. Society, what
Why?
do you mean? Because you can't just go around hurting others with no problems. Of course.
So,
This was
again,
the 50s. No wonder everyone has
I
cancer.
think
What do you
that would be
mean?
different about
Because
the
there was a
sex-
huge cancer spike from smoking.
Well,
That's why.
see, I would love to know. Again, I would love to see a study done with 2020, even 2020 technology on sex. Can't just hurt kids for fun. Of course not. I don't think that's the thing. I think a little bit differently about second smoke. I would love to see a little bit more. I think there's a whole bunch more to that tobacco control debate than what is being told. I think there was a bunch of studies produced not very well to kibosh that industry, and it was done by anti-tobacco organizations. And
You're telling me the anti-tobacco industry took over and did better than the tobacco industry 20 years ago?
took over
Because
and did
obviously
better.
they overruled them. You're telling me tobacco industry now can body vape and the science of today. But 20 years ago, when laws started getting passed about smoking in cars with kids, anti-tobacco legislation came out on top. Because obviously big tobacco didn't want that. So who did? The same laws now that you say big tobacco is the reason of would be the same. It'd be the same people going against big tobacco.
Yeah, it's anti-tobacco organization.
So you don't think big pharma and big tobacco could body that if there was insufficient science, whatever?
We're seeing it right now with vaping.
Exactly. So why did they win 20 years ago, but they're losing now? If that was the case,
They're not winning now.
big tobacco is winning now.
I don't think so, personally.
I mean, here in America, I can't obviously not speak in
I-
worldwide, especially
think
places
big
that
tobacco
do
could-
push
I don't think
vaping
big
above
tobacco's
smoking.
winning in America, though.
What do you mean?
I
You
think
say it every time. The
I
big
think
tobacco is
anti-
the reason that there's more anti-vape legislation than anything else.
I don't think it's because of big tobacco. I think that's anti-tobacco organization.
What?
The anti-tobacco organizations, the ones that are calling for flavor bans and vapes to be banned and age, bump the age up to 21 or whatever the case is. Like those are that hurts big tobacco. Why isn't big tobacco beating all those laws?
Because they just adapt. What do you mean? They don't need the laws. They don't care either way. They have cigarettes and every
there's
disposable
the
that is
difference.
unflavored.
It's the anti-tobacco establishment that implements the majority of those rules, including the don't smoke in your car.
Okay.
With
I'll take your
kid.
word on the vape laws nowadays because I couldn't tell you. You are a lot more knowledgeable on that than I am. As for with smoking with your kid, that is definitely, it's just, there's lots of laws like it. We don't have to use that specific one. You can't make a fire in California most of the time because they have fire bans. You can get fined, arrested for starting a fire. Why is that? Because your fire can spread easily, harm others, harm the state. Stuff like there's plenty of examples.
David just gave a perfect example of what's wrong with every single study that's done on nicotine and vaping and tobacco. Oh, there was a second study done on mice, not humans.
You want it to go straight to human trials? All these mice are dying, and you're like, let's put it on the humans. They don't do it on mice because they're plentiful.
So you're actually hilarious if you're gonna sit there and say that, because I don't know how much you've read about. I'm not even gonna get into. Not going there. We've gone on way longer than we should, and we're just sitting here and continue to argue. So we'll try and sum this up a little bit so we can continue our day here.
He's forfeiting, guys. We win.
Yeah. Oh, you can win today. I'm totally okay with this. Right? That's the biggest problem in regards to studies. They're done on mice. They're not done on humans. They're blown way out of proportion. You look at Staten Glantz and his study on heart attacks. It's a perfect example of it, right? Oh, we took smokers that had heart attacks, and then they started vaping, and we said vaping caused heart attacks. So the majority of studies and nonsense that's done is done in a way to produce outcomes that they want. And it's no different than the political corruption that we talked about and all these other things.
No, I can agree with that. I can 100% agree with what you were saying.
So
with that instance, I agree with you.
When you look at the studies done on mice, right, versus what actually happens in humans, it's vastly different. Especially when it comes to nicotine and tobacco and those things. Oh, the mice go brain dead if they use tobacco. Well, the mice are also stuffed in a little chamber that they can't move in. They're now claustrophobic. They're literally stuck there, only breathing these fumes in. That's not how it works in real society. That's not how it goes. Right? So
no, I agree.
Again, if and I'm not saying that you should go put a kid in harm's way to have these studies done. I don't agree with it. There are already people smoking with kids in their car, regardless of rules or laws or regulations. How you get them to participate in a study, I really don't know. Right? But those are the kind of people in real world settings that you would really want to try and study.
But this is the same as earlier with the impossibilities. You can't there's so many factors that you're not contributing to. But, yes, I agree, most studies are biased. I can get behind you on that 100%. I'm sure whoever conducts the study has a bias.
Yeah, and there becomes the problem again with even something like mask use or lockdown, right? Lockdowns haven't even been studied before. You know what studies were done on lockdowns? People in prison, in isolation. You know what the outcomes of those are? Not good.
That is okay.
We've never locked down society. This hasn't been studied. This hasn't been done before. This isn't okay. This is brand new.
I understand what you're saying, but it's not.
Mask is another thing. If you took real world use of a mask, how they're used in a hospital, in a clean setting, in a clean environment, versus how they're used on a day-to-day basis by the majority of people using them, there is going to be a vast difference in those outcomes. Vast difference. I guarantee Buddy's bed sheet or whatever that he's pulled out of his pocket 20 times and hasn't washed in 3 months isn't going to be the same effectiveness as a good clean mask from the hospital that's only used once. Right? There's a difference.
No, I understand what you're saying. No, it makes sense. I agree with what you're saying. But you're skipping over the part where there's a time sensitivity issue. You can't do nothing until you can test it accurately every time in a perfect scenario. You're talking about this perfect utopian world.
You would give people all the information relevant so they can make an informed decision.
No, you can't let society make decisions, every decision. It will not work. You're talking about a country with no leadership at all. That fails. What do you mean? There's a reason why you have leadership, why there is government. I don't agree with everything government does, but you can't have a country with no leadership.
Look at your country. Your country has leadership.
I agree. Like I said, I don't agree with everything the leadership and government does. But you can't just rely on everyone in society to make the best decision for them and society. You will have a society that crumbles at such a quick rate.
I did not elect these people, just so you're aware. I did not elect.
you have to do something preemptive. You don't have all the time in the world to study everything, especially with new viruses that come. What do you mean? It's literally impossible.
I love that we basically done. He's all typed out. Done. Been 3
His
hours.
thumbs are in pain after this.
Oh, I don't blame him.
Your arthritis is off to a startling start, bud.
And you know what though? Like as much as I get not having repeating things on the podcast, like I wish this had been on the podcast. And maybe I messed up and didn't hear you when you said the windows closed. You know, maybe I agree with something that I didn't necessarily totally agree with, right? And again, but I like that we're able to have this discussion, have a totally difference of opinion. We can get mad at each other and still be okay. And this is what I think more people need to see and realize. We can sit here and have a screaming match back and forth, and that's exactly how it goes. We have different opinions, and we wow each other, and you get blown away, and I'm like, dude, you're out to left field, like but it's okay. And at the end of the day, we're not necessarily going to agree on all these things, right?
No.
And we're allowed to have different, and we should be allowed to criticize what we believe to be right and wrong. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's a good thing.
I agree with that. What you've
said
said so far, I agree with. I have to be so strategic with what I say in this conversation. What you have said up until this very point, I agree with. But I don't know about what you're about to say, honestly. It could go so differently. But these past few sentences, we should be agreed to have a discussion, because that is how you further society, others' opinions, and discussions to move forward. It is the after discussion part that we vary so drastically on, to the point of just pure yells, because there's no way we can agree on the second half of this statement you're about to make. You have every right to discuss openly how you feel, because that is how people acquire new information, discussing it. I agree with that. Just that sentence. Whatever he says next is on him.
But I think that's why this podcast is interesting, because we have different opinions, right? And the information that we're both getting different. So when, again, coming from a hospital and knowing what I know, I'm like, yo, this is really weird how we would use masks. Like, I wouldn't go to another workplace and wear one in and out of a bathroom. Like, why would you have other people doing it? You never even did this in the hospital. Because messed up, right? So I have some questions about it. You're like, I've never worn a mask. Seems all good, you know what I mean? You put it on, it's supposed to stop.
No, see, I've definitely questioned things, but like I said earlier, there's a lot of things I consider just not to be worth it. The stress, the hassle, the drain, I just don't care. Like, if I have to put a cloth over my face to walk into a Walmart because Walmart will not let me in otherwise, I still need to go to Walmart, my man. I still gotta get groceries. It don't matter at the end of the day. I either make my life vastly more difficult, or I put a cloth that just doesn't do anything over my face. Okay, whatever.
I just haven't done groceries.
I just don't eat. I'm starving to death. I will just die. Literally die on this hill. Not even metaphorically. I will be dying on this hill.
It's okay. It's all right. It's working out. I'm doing all right. It'll be fun. Don't worry.
It is what it is.
I guess, again, that's to me the interesting part of this podcast, and what I do hope to continue to bring, right? An argument, a disagreement, and at the end you're like, bro, I love you. I hope you have a good night and everything like that. Because
God, I can't wait till we have guests. A third opinion. One of us will be bodied. I don't know. It depends on the debate and what it is. But
it'll be
sometimes.
For sure.
No, sometimes.
Well, and you know what though? Again, I do think I'll tell you, bringing England on versus our buddy from Australia, you're gonna have two totally different conversations and two totally different views and opinions.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if you bring someone, I mean, in this debate very specifically, no, I'm not even gonna say that. It doesn't matter. people have different opinions. I'm not going to get politics into it. I was about to say something about politics, but in reality, I mean, what I'm saying isn't even based on my political leanings, right? It is the opposite way, if anything. I am not. No politician is going to tell me something. I'll be like, oh, well, I trust that guy. That's just not the case, right?
But and I think that's like that was my biggest thing. And had you told me prior to vaping though, right, that the health organizations or any of those people would lie or mislead you, I would have told you you're absolutely insane. Like
See, that's where we're also different. I've always been just like I've pretty much been to where I just don't care most of the time. Like I'm not going to trust them 100%.
I did everything that was asked of me. And
bro, read that latest comment. Read that latest comment. That's so funny.
Whole, mind blowing shift to what is actually going on here. And there's the next excellent comment, right? Oh, be right back. I'm going to get my fourth one. First, second, and third hasn't worked so far. Forget it. Let's go get a fourth.
I think speaking on the point you're talking about you like believe your eyes are opened more now. I think if anything, I know less now. Or I guess I understand less now, and I have. Oops, my mic fell. I feel like there's so much information online, and we talked about this before, that I don't know how to decipher it, right? So I'm not going to say I'm more informed. I've read more. I've seen more information. I can't tell you if I'm more informed. That would be speaking on something I know nothing about, right? I've read. There's been more information presented to me. But if anything, I feel like I know less now than I did before this crisis, right? Because there's so much information on both sides. Like, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. So I just go with the flow.
Well, and that's, again, up until vaping, like I normally was. I go with the flow, the doctor, whatever, I take it. I wouldn't question anything of it. All my back issues, I never questioned anything. Yeah, I went through a lot and didn't realize or think question. And then vaping, and as an asthmatic, I quit smoking, and it's like, whoa, what's going on with these products here? Like, this is insane. We can actually like help a lot of people quit smoking really quickly. Like, why is no one talking about this? And then
so I question more mentally, but I don't act on it because, like I said, I'm not one to differentiate the information that's in front of me.
So. That was one of the ones as an asthmatic. I was like, and it's funny again.
I guess it is different because you have firsthand examples of how it helped you, right? So I guess that is a bit different.
Yeah, and that was the part that I was like, whoa, this is insane. Like I cannot honestly believe this, and I was taken back. And I was about to stop social media, and then it was like, oh, well, you do this, and I was like, well, let's actually try and use it and see what ends up happening. And then you actually like be social on social media, and again, it's a whole bunch of new experiences, right? And yeah, that was 5 years ago that this started, and here we are again 5 years later. I'm on a podcast in front of a camera with the microphone, pretending I know what I'm doing.
See, like, I'll tell you, I'll be honest. I think the most valuable information that I get from you, that I see as valuable information, is your personal, like, what has happened to you personally that you can speak on. That is stuff that I actually take into my head and, like, conserve it, right? Like, what your experience is in the hospital. Like, that is not really up for debate, right? That's not something we disagree on. Because I'm listening to what you went through in a hospital setting. Now, why you feel this way is completely different, but I understand. Like, I take that into account for what I say. Same with like having asthma and then switching from smoking to vaping, right? That's relevant because it's your personal experience. It's something that I know you 100% know about because you're there, you're living it, right? But there's a lot of information I obviously do not take at face value because it is not yours to have, right? Whether it be stuff you read, even opinions you have are still yours based on all of those factors. Whereas your actual life, I can take that into account better, like personally, right?
Well, and I think a lot of people do relate to personal experiences a lot better. And that's why, again, I do see some potential in having a podcast where you're talking like that, but it ends up, you know what I mean? You do almost share some personal experiences and stories to kind of get people to relate and understand, right? The hospital thing, I've continued to ask. I'm trying to ask. I really, really want to tell that story. There ends up being a problem. Like I'm not sure how much of that story I'm allowed to tell them, right? Like I'm still going through a process with them. I'm still dealing
I would
with that.
probably wait until everything is,
Well,
finished.
and
Ties are officially cut before
yeah,
sharing anything too personal on that, right? But
and that's
I don't
been
think we've crossed that line thus far, so I don't see this
and
problem.
that's been a big problem in even sharing uh to my social media, right? Like I've had so much happen in my experience there that I haven't been able to really share or talk about because I'm worried of legal implications of what ends up happening, right? And I think it's played a huge part, unfortunately. And as much as other people might not realize, right, in me trying to share my experiences, I can't say everything that I want to say. I'm not allowed to do certain things, and it's only because of those reasons, right? I'm again, I've asked a couple times now. I'm still waiting on a response. When, like, I'm terminated. Why can I not? Should I not be allowed to tell my story? Right? I've had other opportunities come up where, again, I would love to tell my story, but I just, again, legal
I
implications
mean,
of
I
it.
guess in that aspect, what you should do, or what I think you should do, is probably get a copy of any documents you signed, right? Which should be readily available to you whenever either you ask, or you might even have a copy, whether it be in your email, whatever. I would go through them and just read them with a fine tooth comb, right? Go like go through them, comb through, and see what it disallows, right? And then
Yeah.
you'll be fine in terms of
Well,
something. There's a difference in stuff they don't like and things you're not allowed legally, right? But you might have signed away some of your rights to say that and
yeah,
say
and
certain things, and you did sign it. So I mean, it is what it is.
yeah, and that's why I'm very cautious in what I say and how much I say. Yeah, I do know there is some legal jargon in regards to like what you say. Um, like if I'm not mistaken, you're not allowed to like actually talk bad or say anything like negative. So and I think that ends up becoming a bit of a problem in regards to some of my stories. So that's why I'm trying.
I think it really boils down to like defamation, but
Well, and but
defamation is a really hard case, to be honest, so you should be
yeah,
fine.
but public
Defamation
health is
actually
being
is impossible. I mean, I don't know about Canada. That's another thing. I'm speaking directly on the states. I know nothing about Canadian law. But here, defamation is almost impossible unless they're hurting financially from what you're saying and you're ruining their reputation, which literally is impossible to prove as a hospital. So
yeah, but
there'd be no way here. But like I said, it might vary a lot up there.
I and again, I don't know the actual legal jargon to this, but if I'm not mistaken, there is something in regards to working in public health and not talking bad about public health because you're painting a bad image and then you get in trouble for talking bad about them. Again, I don't, like I said, I don't know the exact legal jargon, but I think there is
Mm-hmm.
something along those lines. And again, I don't know even know necessarily if it applies to me specifically or it's just other people within the public health realm. Like again,
I would
I'm new
definitely
to
get a
this, right?
copy of anything
So
you sign. That would be the safest. I mean, even calling and asking, you can't even trust what they tell you, right? Like unless you're reading what you signed and what you agreed to, that's really the safest option for you.
yeah, no,
But
and yeah, I don't
I'm
care
all
about
for
college.
talking bad on employers. I love that. But within reason, legal
Well, and
reason.
yeah, but to me, I don't even want to talk bad. Like I'm not. Well, obviously
He
there's some.
said, "Well, no, I do."
Yeah, but it's not talking bad. There is some negative to the story, but in reality, the only reason I want to tell the story is because I believe that they could do so much better, right? If this is where everyone's going to for help, they should be better, right? And that's the only reason I want to tell the story. I really don't care, you know, anything else. They need to do better. Like that's really all there.
Yeah. No, I agree with
So
that. Yeah, I'll be the first one to tell you public health needs to do better. I live in the U.S., so You best believe, I believe our health system should be better and doing better. I don't know about yours, but I bet you it's an upgrade. I bet you it's an upgrade.
And I was just reading that comment, and it kind of goes along the lines of this, and I did find it kind of interesting. What's really interesting is seeing how you guys interact. I now understand the psyche a little more of the rest of your population, and now realize why it's a problem out there. And then, obviously, we talked about public health, and maybe people get a little bit of insight into why I am the way I am and why I feel the way I feel, right? But like, if the WHO were to turn around and endorse vaping like the NHS now, would I trust them? No. Would they admit that they lied?
I'll be honest. I just combed over that and didn't say it because I saw that rabbit hole. Just let it go. The second, brother, the WHO endorsement.
That's exactly my point,
you,
right? Like, if they were to come out and admit that they lied and misled, then maybe. You know what I mean? If they just come out and said, "Oh, actually, we changed our mind. Vaping's great." Well, no, you guys can just to try and save face and show that they're not lying about everything else, right? They also said that there was no human-to-human transmission at the very beginning, if you remember. So you don't need to worry. There's no human-to-human transmission. Great.
They don't care enough to actively lie to you.
Yeah, of course.
You're just a guy. No. Just a guy.
They don't care enough. I don't think they're actively lying specific, sir. But you guys definitely put me on a pedestal that I don't feel I'm worthy of.
No, I think definitely not that. Not on a pedestal. If anything, it's like a lower pedestal. Like I dig you a little hole and put you in that. It's not. You may sound like you're on first place. You're more on like, you get like a participation trophy, if anything. I think, yes, it's because you say such outrageous stuff. Like you want kids to die of cancer. That's what I took away. That's the title, guys. That's their YouTube title. I'll be honest. Right? I might upload this entire video to YouTube because this has been pretty interesting. I know, obviously, I'm gonna cut it for Spotify. Yeah. But I might upload this whole one. Go out with a bang for the new year, right? I might put this whole video because this has been an interesting debate.
Way over what we expected, and
God, imagine this is the one that blows up and gets us famous. That would be tragic for you, bro. You'd be finished because they would take such little clips of it and cripple you.
that's okay. I'm totally okay with that. But
I definitely
plays a big part because again, my answer right to that smoking answer, depending on again, are the windows open or the windows closed, and I truly would like to see a study done with today's technology, right? Like, and so, again, I think when it comes to this, like put it out there, throw it out there. I hope people don't take it out of context. I hope people are able to see, you know what I mean? Like both sides of the argument. And I get what you're saying. I don't necessarily.
That is the hardest part, I think, is, even they said it a minute ago, is contextualizing what's being said and noting that it's not set in stone. Like I said, it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray, right? Like my opinion, Tammy said it last week or a couple weeks ago about me being like the most how did she phrase it? The most socialist, I don't know, something like that. But I agree, like my views are all over the place depending on where it is, right? I couldn't be a politician. Dear God. What party would vote for me? Even the Green parties don't want me.
Again, I think that plays a huge part in everything, right? Like, does the guy need to light a cigarette to drive 5 minutes down the road with his kid when he could have smoked before or after the car? I don't necessarily think so. The guy going on a 12-hour fucking drive with his kid across wherever to go visit, grandma, if buddy has a smoke with the window down once or twice, I'm not.
I think the problem is setting limits on what you say is not possible, right? You can't say you're allowed to have 2 cigarettes every 3 hours, 1 cigarette every hour and a half you're on the road, or like the window has to be cracked 1.5 inches or more. Like there's so many semantics
And that's why to me you would just leave well enough alone. I think the majority are not smoking in the car with.
But
their
I don't
kid.
think you can. I don't.
know.
I think that is actually very false. That is like that specific sentence. The majority isn't. I think now they're not because of everything that's come out about smoking's pretty bad for you. You're literally dying of cancer. Secondhand smoke, you're literally giving your kids cancer. You probably shouldn't do that. And people are, as a society, not wanting to smoke in the car with their kids. But you look at 50 years ago, 60 years ago, whatever, right? Like people are smoking all the time. They're giving their kids cigarettes at 11. Like,
and that's why I'm really curious if secondhand smoke has enough toxicity to cause cancer.
That's what it was. Right? She said the most capitalist socialist ever. Yeah, that's about right. I love money, but I want regulation and everything that helps me. There we go. That's very right wing of me to say.
I'm kind of more like England there, and I'm like, I don't even know what those words mean. I test politics and those kind of things. Like those, I hear those words right, left, and I'm like, oh,
Canadian believes cancer has a right to live too. That's the title.
Oh yeah, God. Here we go. Well, and you know what? You've definitely done well with the clickbait titles. Like, I'll give you credit there.
Yeah. They're pretty good, right? I liked my last tweets. The last tweets was good, I think. He said, "Don't worry, I'm not as smart as I like to make people think." Now you're starting to sound like Anthony. Let's bring you on. Hashtag COVID virus has rights too. There we go. That's beautiful.
Everybody should have rights. I honestly.
Flip it. Send it in.
There we go.
No, I think this was good though. This is. I even said earlier. First time we went 3.5 hours. Look at where we are now. Right under the 3.5 hour mark.
You're ridiculous.
It just happens. I think the best content comes when you don't think about time.
Well, and we just started arguing, right? We just started talking, debating it out, and having a grand old time. And those are the conversations that I love and enjoy the most. And that to me is what I want to try and push, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. I think, I don't know. I would love to have a way to incorporate chat into the audio version. I just really don't know a good way without reading it. And the context, I mean, that's one thing about contextualizing everything. We just start talking, or that's what they said. It just becomes so confusing for Spotify that it's so much easier to just have it first hour and then second hour.
D-Blaze 2K5 says, hashtag COVID virus has rights too, right?
Like, dang, I like that.
Tell
Let's just call him out. There we go.
I'd watch that. Yeah, that would sound pretty messed up on him.
David says COVID virus has rights too. Now what's clickbait? That was rough.
Yeah, no, but again, so I love it. I enjoy it. This is what, episode 4? No, it's actually episode 5.
No, this is episode 4. 4, yeah, 4.
4 that's recorded. 5 if you've been paying attention.
It's episode 4. The first was an exclusive, bro. Chill. It was Twitch exclusive.
Well, sir, that's incredible. We actually did 4 episodes.
It was. The next time you guys see us, next Thursday, it will be 2022.
A new year.
A whole new year, new me. Anthony is going to get a vaccine. I am going to become a Republican politician. We're really switching it up next year, guys. We're going all in. We're going for the most clickbaity titles next year. You think this year was good? 2022.
You're dreaming, sir. You're dreaming. Dreaming for real.
Next week on Babbling Over Borders, I'm anti-vax and he's pro-mask. Let's go. I think that would honestly be such a good thing to do. Like a good episode is we switch views. We try to argue the other person's views. Because I think it would open our eyes a lot.
I would have a hard time arguing your side.
You can argue over anything. You wouldn't have a hard time doing anything.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think, again, we got lots of plans. There's lots, and I think that was the other thing I said before. This is the best part about this. We left the topic open.
with Babbling, whatever, whenever, with whoever.
And we debated beforehand having like set topics for the day, and even trying to stick around. It doesn't even matter. We're such babbling people off the podcast. It doesn't make a difference, right? But if we're communicating, what today? I don't mean today. I mean just like the first podcast. We're like, okay, let's make a list. Let's try to stick to these topics to make it fluid. It doesn't matter, bro.
No. Oh, and I agree. The first show, I think, realized it wasn't able to stay on topic. But even if you look at today's episode, from concerts and having fun,
killing babies in cars,
all the wonderfulness,
killing babies in cars. I'm excited for the concert. Yeah. I will have to post. We'll have to do it on a different day in those two on that concert day though, because that is a Thursday. We'll have to either postpone it to Friday or true. Never mind. I should just hit up the band and tell them to play on a different day in Atlanta. My bad, bro.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I have a podcast that day. I'll bring them on the podcast. I'll do the podcast at the concert. Whatever.
Yeah. There we go. Now we're talking. I was gonna say you need to have a word with them and just let them know Thursdays is no good for schedule, or we could do like the podcast pre-show backstage with them. That'd be pretty cool too. I'm not gonna lie.
David says arguing is Canada is easy. Drinking lava might be good for you. I want to see a study. Gotta see the studies. Cyanide is the misunderstood substance. What happens if you feed it to your dog? I like it. We're actually going to slowly transition. Here's why we want sponsors. We really want to do the studies ourselves, right? Instead of actually relying on biased science experiments from these scientists with degrees, here's what we're going to do. We'll just get COVID. We'll take one of every 3 of the vaccines. We'll just do it all, and we're going to be the studies. He wants study results. He gets study results. Homemade. You want to put the word out? There's the word to put out. I took all 3 and I died. I am gonna die tomorrow. Don't do this.
You have lost your mind. I hope people, again, everybody watching now is watching videos, so they'll get to see my reaction. You have
no, bro. You want studies? You put yourself in the study.
What is it? After 3.5 hours,
I just take it because I don't care. But you want to see it? We're doing it. Next week we get COVID, and we get COVID and don't quarantine. There we go.
Yeah. COVID's running rampant. I very well could end up with it. We'll see what happens. I hope and pray no one else.
That's what I was saying. My parents said that. They said, we're not going to get COVID. We're not worried about it. And here they are, sick in their house with COVID. Can't smell, bad taste, fevers. Here they are.
I hope they're feeling all right. I hope they get better.
Me too. Like I said, I was making my mom go get tested and care about her health to make sure what she has. I know you disagree with that.
Well, hey, if you gotta go get a test to tell you you're sick, I'm not sure how sick you are, but
I think that's the end of the podcast. We will be back in 2022. We'll be those guys. We'll see you guys next year. We're taking a break until next year. God, I hate those people. I'll see you next year at 11:59 on New Year's.
That's not.
Oh my God, I haven't seen you in a year, Anthony.
That's a bad joke.
I hate those. I know. That's my point. I hate them.
So I'll see you
at every party. Yep.
I don't have to listen to you again till
I'll talk to you next year. God, a year without you, a year in paradise.
Thank God. Oh my goodness. If only it was longer than a week.
He said we'll be fine because we're not licking door frames, but you're in danger.
I licked a couple door frames. They don't.
He'll lick whatever he can get his mouth on. But on that note, we are out of here. Check us out on Spotify and YouTube. It would help a lot, even with the algorithm. Go click it, share it, whatever. You want other people to see the comedy we possess, the comedic skill. This is laughable. God. So
you are laughable. I agree.
Go share it. Go click it. View it. Let it play in the background. Fall asleep to it. I don't know. David should honestly be sleeping by now anyway. It's like 5 a.m. or something over there.
Yeah, ridiculous. I know. I don't.
You're crazy. You're crazy for staying, but we appreciate it. Appreciate everyone watching. Like I said,
thank you, everyone.
Next year. I hate myself so much. I'm the worst person. You guys have a good night, though. Have a good New Year. Goodbye.
Peace.